Chapter 1243. In the main hall of the Jade Lake's sacred land, Yichen fixed his gaze on an old man in black below. Although he did not reveal his aura, his sharp gaze still made the latter tremble in fear. The latter was Attendant Wu of the octagonal tower. "Sit." Yichen spoke slowly. He only looked at Attendant Wu after he sat up straight and said, "Why does your octagonal tower want to see me? If I remember correctly, there has never been any conflict between me and your octagonal tower, right?" Before this, Xiaohei had already told Yichen about the octagonal tower. In short, the octagonal tower was an intelligence force. No matter what era or time it was, there would always be a lack of intelligence. Even in the cultivation world, it was no exception. For example, if a cultivator needed some medicinal herbs for refining pills, he would need the help of an intelligence force. After all, the world was vast. There was no need to spend decades or even hundreds of years searching for a batch of medicinal pills. Attendant Wu took a deep breath in and said respectfully, "Emperor Yi, I'm here on Elder Pan's orders. As for why he asked me to come, I don't know either." "Elder Pan?" Yichen frowned. As if sensing his confusion, Attendant Wu immediately explained, "Elder Pan is the true master of the octagonal tower. The octagonal tower was founded by him." Even though he already knew why the other party was here, Yichen still said in disbelief, "What news did your octagonal tower bring me this time?" "Emperor Yi." Attendant Wu's spirits were lifted. He then took out a scroll from his body. "The things that Elder Pan wants to tell me are all in here." Yichen grabbed the scroll from afar and grabbed it directly. He scanned it with his divine consciousness and could not help but be surprised. This scroll was actually sealed by mental power. Moreover, the spiritual power that sealed him was not the power of a martial artist's soul, but a cultivator's divine consciousness. Moreover, it was a beginner-stage God transformation divine consciousness. If this scroll was left outside and obtained by someone below the Emperor's throne, no one below the Emperor's throne would be able to break the divine consciousness seal, let alone obtain its contents. Thinking to this point, he was not in a hurry to open the scroll. Instead, he took a deep look at Attendant Wu. Could the Elder Pan behind him be a soul formation cultivator? This meant that there were cultivators in the ancient barren world. As soon as this thought flashed through his mind, he was shocked even with his temperament. He immediately stuck the scroll to his forehead and released his divine sense to break the divine sense seal. "If I want to save my wife and daughter, head east to Gradine." Immediately afterward, these 8 golden words appeared in his mind, and they reverberated in his mind like thunder. "If I want to save my wife and daughter, head east to Gradine." Yichen suppressed the shock in his heart and mumbled to himself, "It seems like my previous guess was right. The great Yin imperial dynasty and Yuhan are indeed related." However, what he could not understand was how the mysterious octagonal tower's master found out about his relationship with Su Yuhan, and why did he tell him about it? He could not help but look at Deacon Wu. "Can you bring me to see your octagonal towers, Elder Pan?" "I'm afraid not." Attendant Wu shook his head lightly, and then he laughed bitterly. "Emperor Yi, there's something you're unaware of. Elder Pan had already announced the dissolution of the Octavian Pavilion before he asked me to deliver this letter, and his whereabouts are unknown. No one knows where he is." Yichen frowned. This matter was getting more and more mysterious. Attendant Wu sighed softly and said, "Before he left, Elder Pan said that he leaked the secrets of heaven. Heaven is looking for him, and his calamity is coming." Yichen's frown deepened. At this moment, Attendant Wu suddenly knelt down heavily. "Emperor Yi, please use your divinity to erase my memories and save my life." Before he came, Elder Pan had instructed him to get Yichen to erase his memory immediately once the scroll was delivered. Otherwise, he would be killed, even though he did not know the contents of the scroll. "Forget it." Yichen shook his head in the end. "No matter what Elder Pan's motive is, if I really find Yuhan and the rest, I'll owe him a favor." That afternoon, a piece of shocking news spread throughout the entire Central State, and even the entire ancient desolate realm. The octagonal tower has disbanded. When the news spread, the entire Central State was in an uproar. Countless people were dumbfounded. Even the upper echelons of many great sects did not dare to say that they had a complete understanding of the octagonal tower's origins, because it had existed 2,000 years ago. In the past 2,000 years, the octagonal tower had infiltrated every corner of the ancient desolate realm, relying on reselling information to develop to this day. It was such an existence that even emperors' throne powerhouses had to be wary of. In the past 2,000 years, countless powerhouses had coveted such an existence. Some even wanted to take it for themselves, but no one had succeeded. They did not even know the identity of the octagonal tower's master. And now, this colossus that had stood for over 1,000 years had suddenly and inexplicably disbanded. Before everyone could react, another shocking news spread. The Emperor of Great Een, Emperor Xianku, has taken revenge for his son. He has invited Yi Chun to fight on Mount Tangwu in 3 days. If the news of the octagonal tower's disbandment was like a bombshell, then the news of the Emperor of Great Een challenging Yi Chun was no different for a world-destroying lightning bolt. Countless people felt their scalps go numb. The Emperor of Great Een, a terrifying existence who had already stepped into the Emperor's throne stage, had publicly challenged Yi Chun. Before this, the Emperor's throne stage powerhouses had been hiding in the ancient desolate realm for thousands of years. They had never made such a big fuss. However, in the past few days, the Jade Lake Holy Master had been killed, and then the Emperor of Great Een had challenged them. How could the world not be terrified? Big news, it's definitely big news. It's been a long time since the ancient desolate realm has been so lively. The battle between two emperors' throne powerhouses, no matter who wins, is enough to shock the world. We can't miss it. That's right. We'll watch from afar. Perhaps we can comprehend the emperor's throne's demeanor. We might even have a chance to reach the emperor's throne. Do you think Yi Chun will accept the challenge? In just one day, the entire central state and even the ancient desolate realm were shaken. Countless people could not help but look at the Jade Lake sacred ground. The deputy sect leader of the Clear Sky Sword sect, Xin Yuan, sneered, "Although you just killed the Jade Lake Holy Master, it was mostly luck." I think he won't dare to agree. That's normal. After all, Emperor Xianku is different from the Jade Lake Holy Master. Daoist Zephyr Thunder from the Dongfang family shook his head and said, "Although the former became famous relatively late, his methods are not inferior to the Jade Lake Holy Masters. In addition to the nation's fortune, he's even stronger than the Jade Lake Holy Master." If he doesn't agree, wouldn't we be unable to take revenge for the paragons of our sects? Gu Lin of the Immovable Light sect was filled with hatred. At this moment, a sentence came from the Jade Lake sacred ground. It was so short that there were only 6 words. "If you want to fight, then let's fight." P.S. Chapter 5, updated today. End of this chapter. Chapter 1244. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. During these 2 days, Yi Chun remained in the Jade Lake sacred land. He was not in a hurry to go to Mount Tangwu. Instead, he spent most of his time with his daughter. At the same time, he went to the octagonal tower to try to find out the identity of the tower's master, Elder Pan. However, he did not find anything. It was as if this person was trapped in this world. On the other hand, the hype about him in the outside world did not die down. Instead, it became more and more intense. After all, Yi Chun had killed the Jade Lake Holy Leader and forced the Jade Lake Holy Land to disband. It was shocking enough. Moreover, the Emperor of the Great Een Imperial Dynasty, Di Xuanxiang, had challenged Yi Chun 3 days later. It could be said to be the grandest event in the ancient desolate realm in the past 1,000 years. For a moment, Yi Chun was in the limelight. Countless forces tried their best to find out about his identity, background, and even his origins. However, everyone realized that Yi Chun seemed to have appeared out of nowhere. The only useful information was that Yi Chun first appeared in the Great Dynasty of the Northern region. This made the outside world even more curious about Yi Chun. Some people said that Yi Chun was the son of a hidden ancient realm that had not appeared in the world for a long time. He went out to experience the mortal world and hone his Tao heart. Some people said that Yi Chun was the reincarnation of an ancient almighty. Otherwise, He would not have stepped into the emperor's throne stage at such a young age. There were many different opinions. No matter what, Yi Chun became one of the most popular figures in the ancient desolate realm. He was said to be able to surpass the Emperor of Great Yin and the Emperor of Great Xia within 1,000 years. The impact was that countless youths knelt at the foot of the Jade Lake's sacred land every day, begging Yi Chun to be their master. There were also masters of declining forces who brought valuable gifts and begged to meet Yi Chun to obtain his protection. There were also many great sects who expressed their goodwill to Yi Chun. After this incident, the Hu family of Dusk Province became famous. After the Hu family's master, Hu Baimei, returned to the clan, she immediately decided that Hu Fei would be the next master of the Hu family. The Hu family's only martial saint patriarch even taught Hu Fei everything he knew. To the surprise of the Hu family, Hu Fei refused without hesitation. He chose to stay by Yi Chun's side and serve him tea without complaint. While the outside world was focused on Yi Chun in the Jade Lake's sacred land in the Jade God Valley, Yi Chun sat cross-legged in the quiet room. In front of him was a mountain of spirit stones, and on the side was a pill furnace engraved with formation runes. The pill furnace was connected directly to the earth lung fire, and an endless amount of essence fire was surging violently. As expected of a peerless sect in the ancient barren world, this kind of heritage is not something that Earth can compare to. Even in the cultivation world, it is comparable to some small sects. Yi Chun rubbed his chin and observed everything quietly. A smile blossomed on his face. There are over 80,000 low-grade spirit stones in total. Including the ones I've saved up before, I have about 120,000 pieces. This amount might have been a lot for me before I reached the soul formation stage, but after I reached the soul formation stage, the acceleration of my cultivation base can't just be achieved by replenishing spiritual energy. He thought to himself, the soul formation stage is different from the nascent soul stage. It's more about strengthening one's soul. If one's soul is strong enough, the divine arts and Tao techniques that one can cast would naturally be powerful enough. Besides, even if I absorb these spirit stones, I won't be able to recover to the mid-stage of soul formation. I might as well keep them for now and polish my daughter's foundation in the future so that she can embark on the path of cultivation. Yi Chun had an idea as he thought to this point. If I want to increase my ability faster now, perhaps I can consider working on magic treasures and divine abilities. Buzz, as the void trembled, a palm-sized black mountain peak appeared in his palm. It was the 5 Elements Origin Magnetic Mountain. Yi Chun's eyes flickered as he said, when I was in the cultivation world back then, I personally witnessed a Mahayana stage patriarch refining a primordial magnet mountain into a treasure. With a wave of his hand, he suppressed a sect. Now, I can do the same. After all, after reaching the early stage of soul formation, I still have a suitable primordial spirit magic treasure. He smiled. Even though the Night Demon battle armor and the Emperor brush were treasures from my previous life, they were greatly damaged after that battle and can't be recovered for the time being. As for divine abilities, the true martial Tao sect in the immortal world has a monstrous fist technique known as the 6 Paths of Reincarnation Fist. At its peak, it can reverse the 6 paths of reincarnation and destroy worlds with a single punch. Yi Chun activated the true origin energy in his body as he thought to this point. He stretched his hand out and patted the huge pill furnace before him. He threw the refining materials that he had prepared into the surging earth lung essence fire. As the temperature in the quiet room rose, an aura that made one's heart palpitate gradually spread out. After 3 days of brewing, the battle between Di Xuanxiang and Yi Chun on Mount Tang, Wu had finally reached its climax. This earth-shattering battle had finally arrived. In an instant, the entire ancient desolate realm was in an uproar. Countless sects and families gathered on Mount Tang Wu, unwilling to miss this pinnacle battle. On the morning of the 3rd day, the tightly shut stone door of the quiet room finally opened. Xiao He and the 9 carving phoenix, who had been waiting outside, immediately welcomed them. "Master, how is it?" Xiao He hugged Ming Ming and asked. Even the nine-carving phoenix could not help but look at Yi Chen nervously. With the death of the Jade Lake Holy Master, it could be said to be completely loyal to Yi Chen. Therefore, it was a little worried about the battle between Yi Chen and Di Xuanxiang. "It's done." Yi Chen chuckled softly and opened his right hand slowly. A mountain peak that contained the color of chaos appeared in his palm. The mountain was no longer as dark as the five elements Origin Magnet Mountain. After Yi Chen's refinement, it was even more powerful than before. Meanwhile, Yi Chen called it the Five Elements Hell Peak. Under the little girl's expectant gaze, Yi Chen waved his sleeve, and a black shadow landed before everyone. The black shadow seemed to be a human ape puppet that was less than a meter tall. Its entire body emitted a thick luster, faintly emitting a strong, murderous aura. The little girl struggled out of Xiao Hei's embrace and sized up the mechanical puppet. "Daddy, what is this?" Even Xiao Hei and the nine-carving phoenix were confused. Yi Chen smiled lightly and held the little girl's hand. With a gentle stroke, a drop of blood fell between the mechanical puppet's brows. Rumble! The ape-like mechanical puppet exploded with a monstrous aura and knelt heavily before Yi Chen. Yi Chen said with a smile, "This is a mechanical puppet. Daddy refined it for you. It can protect you at critical moments." He had refined this mechanical puppet based on the primordial demon ape. Due to the limited materials, its combat strength was only equivalent to a 5-rank martial saint. However, it was enough to protect the little girl. If it self-destructed at critical moments, even a 9-rank martial saint would be severely injured. Hearing that, the nine-carving phoenix looked at Yi Chen with even more respect. A mechanical puppet that's comparable to a 5-rank martial saint. This method is heaven-defying. Let's go. It's time to teach this so-called Di Xuanxiang a lesson. At that moment, Yi Chen's eyes shone with divine light. He had a monstrous aura that looked down on the ancient desolate realm. End of this chapter. Chapter 1245. Mount Tangwu. This mountain was located in the eastern border of Central State, in the territory of the Great Yin Imperial Dynasty. It was called the Emperor Mountain by all the people of the Great Yin Imperial Dynasty. Legend had it that thousands of years ago, the Great Yin Emperor, Emperor Xianku, had comprehended heaven and earth on this mountain and reached the emperor's throne stage. Over the years, countless people had worshipped this mountain. Every year, they would rush to the mountainside to burn incense and pray for blessings. On the way to the eastern border, a giant black ape that was 30 meters tall leaped between the mountains and crossed the rivers as if it was walking on flat ground. When countless people saw this scene along the way, they thought that a ferocious beast had appeared. They were so scared that their faces turned pale and they retreated. On the back of the giant black ape, there was an empty space of about 50 square meters. It was covered with straw mats, and Yi Chen and the rest were sitting there. "Daddy, this monster is so magical." Ming Ming climbed onto the railing and stared at the giant black ape with her eyes wide open. She could not understand why the monster that her father refined could grow and shrink even though it was lifeless. Even Xiao Hei and the nine-carving phoenix were shocked speechless by Yi Chen's abilities. It was clearly a puppet that was dead, but it was like a real giant ape. Yi Chen explained patiently. Since ancient times, Earth had such mechanisms. For example, Liu Ban had created stone grinders, siege ladders, ink dippers, and other things that had influenced the future. In the cultivation world, there was no lack of people who studied these strange things. Therefore, mechanical puppets came into being. As long as a spirit stone was embedded in it, it would have enough energy to move. The nine-carving phoenix praised sincerely. "Master, according to the speed of this mechanical puppet, we'll be able to reach Mount Tangwu in less than 2 hours." Yi Chen nodded lightly. Just when he was about to speak, he heard a crisp voice coming from afar. "Senior brother from the Gongshu family, please wait." Yi Chen looked in the direction of his gaze when he heard that. He saw a flying ship that had sunk into the sea 3,000 meters away to the south. There were 3 men and 1 woman in the air. The woman in red was waving at him as if she was asking for help. Yi Chen ignored her and continued to move the giant black ape forward. When she saw this, the woman in red was so angry that she stomped her feet. A young man in black behind her instantly sneered. "Junior sister, that person is so arrogant. He actually ignored us." As soon as he was done speaking, he charged at Yi Chun and the rest. Unfortunately, he happened to block their way. Yi Chun ordered the giant black ape to stop and glared at him coldly. Xiao Hei and the 9 carving wands' gazes turned hostile. The black-clothed youth said arrogantly, "Brother, my junior sister asked you to wait. Didn't you hear her? What do you think?" Xiao Hei looked at Yi Chun as if asking for his opinion. Should he kill him directly or teach him a lesson? "Senior brother Mo Rong, don't act recklessly." At this time, the woman in red caught up with the other 2 people. The woman in red glared at the black-robed young man. She then clasped her fists at Yi Chun and said politely, "Greetings, senior brother from the Gongshu family. I'm Mo Hongxiu from the Mo family. I apologize to senior brother Mo Rong." Her words and actions were very polite, which made Yi Chun's frown slowly relax. "Why did you stop me?" "Senior brother, we were planning to go to Mount Tangwu in the east, but something happened to the flying boat, and it fell into the water." And Mo Hongxiu glanced at the giant black ape secretly. Her pretty face heated up as she said shyly, "So, can I ride on your puppet?" She looked at Yi Chun in anticipation after saying that. Yi Chun was surprised. "You guys are going to Mount Tangwu too?" "Senior brother, you're going to Mount Tangwu too? That's great." And Mo Hongxiu was stunned at first when she heard that. Then, she said happily, "Senior brother, please help us since we're from Jixia Academy." Yi Chun wanted to reject her, but he asked by instinct when he heard Jixia Academy, "What's your relationship with Ning Haoran?" Ning Haoran was Grand Tutor Ning. When Yi Chun was in the Great Li Dynasty in the Tianfengxi area, Grand Tutor Ning had helped him a lot. After that, Yi Chun found out that Grand Tutor Ning had fallen out with Shang Wudao and left the Great Li Dynasty to return to Jixia Academy in Zhongzhou. Before Mo Hongxiu could speak, Mo Rong was furious. "How dare you call Mountain Master Ning by his name?" This time, it was Mo Hongxiu's turn to look at him in surprise. "Senior brother, you're also from Jixia Academy. Don't you know that Mountain Master Ning is the Deputy Mountain Master of the Legalism Academy?" "Who told you that I'm from Jixia Academy?" Yi Chun shook his head lightly and said while smiling, "Moreover, I'm not from the Gongshu family." "That's impossible, right?" And Mo Hongxiu's eyes widened as she sized up the black ape. In the entire ancient barren world, only the Gongshu family and the people from Jixia Academy School of Mechanics can create such an exquisite mechanical puppet. She said awkwardly when she saw that Yi Chun's expression did not seem to be fake as she said to this point, "I mistook you for someone else." "I'm sorry." She turned around to leave after saying that. Yi Chun stopped her and said while shaking his head, "Forget it. I'll bring you guys along for Ning Haoran's sake." "That's great. Thank you." Mo Hongxiu was overjoyed. She then boarded the black puppet with the 3 of them behind her. The giant black ape proceeded to move forward. Mo Hongxiu introduced them to everyone as soon as she got up. Yi Chun then learned that the 3 people behind her were Mo Rong, Mo Nan, and Mo Ming. The 4 of them were from Jixia Academy in Chinatown. However, compared to Mo Hongxiu's politeness, Mo Rong and the other 2 looked rather arrogant when they faced Yi Chun and the rest. They seemed to be proud that they came from Jixia Academy. Mo Hongxiu lifted her eyes to take a good look at Yi Chun and the rest after she was done introducing them. "Senior brother, I don't know your names yet," Yi Chun said while smiling. "Just call me Senior Brother Yi." On the other hand, Xiao Hei and the 9 carving wand were not interested in the 4 of them. Especially the 9 carving wand, it could be said to be disdainful. With its identity, even some of the Mountain Masters in Jixia Academy had to call themselves juniors when they saw it. The only person that it respected was the head of the academy. Mo Hongxiu did not mind that Xiao Hei and the other 2 were ignoring her. Perhaps it was her first time out, so she chatted with Yi Chun without any hesitation. Mo Rong, who was next to her, glared at Yi Chun and the other 3 coldly. He then exchanged glances with Mo Nan and the other 2 next to him. He seemed to dislike Xiao Hei and the rest for ignoring them. "Master, this girl has an extraordinary background. If I'm not mistaken, she should be the daughter of Jixia Academy's Mo School's Mountain Master." The 9 carving wand secretly spoke to Yi Chun through voice transmission. It added at the end of its sentence, "The position of the Mo School's Mountain Master has always been held by the Mo School's Master." So what? Yi Chun did not care at all. "No," the 9 carving wand said in a deep voice. "You can ignore the Mo School's Master, but there's one person that you must pay attention to." End of this chapter. Chapter 1246. Who is it? Yi Chun was surprised. The Jade Lake Saint Master Feng Baiyu and the Emperor of Great Een were considered the top figures in the ancient desolate realm, but he still did not take them seriously. He could not think of anyone else who was worthy of his fear. "He's the master of Jixia Academy, the Chancellor." The 9 Eagle Phoenix took a deep breath in and said word by word, "Jixia Academy has a supreme position in the ancient desolate realm. Although it's only a place where scholars gather, it can influence the world. Whether it's the Great Een Dynasty or the Great Qi Dynasty, there are officials from Jixia Academy." Yi Chun nodded slightly. He had long known that the Jixia Academy in the ancient desolate realm was suspected to be from the Jixia Academy during the pre-Qin Dynasty on Earth. Mo Hongxiu had said earlier that there were Moism academies, legalism academies, and even techniques academies in Jixia Academy. All of them verified the history of the 100 schools of thought during the pre-Qin Dynasty. The 9 Eagle Wand seemed to be in awe. The head of the academy is known as the teacher of all scholars in the ancient barren world. Even the Saint Master of the Jade Lake, Feng Baiyu, and the Emperor of the Great Een, Xian Ku, have to show some respect to him. Is he very powerful? Yi Chun frowned. More powerful than the Jade Lake Saint Master? I'm not sure. The 9 Eagle Phoenix said in a deep voice. No one has seen him fight. Some people say that he's just a scholar without cultivation. At this point, it could not help but sneer. However, I once heard that there was a peerless sect that was even stronger than the Jade Lake Sacred Land. It was wiped out overnight because it did not respect Jixia Academy. He took a deep breath in. There were 3 Emperor's Throne powerhouses in this peerless sect. Yi Chun was moved when he heard that. However, he smiled immediately. He had nothing to do with Jixia Academy, so why should he care? If he had to fight the mysterious master of the academy, he had nothing to fear. The voice transmission between the two of them was almost silent. Even Mo Hongxiu and the other 3 did not notice it at all. By the way, senior brother Yi, why are you guys going to mount Tanwu? Mo Hongxiu widened her beautiful eyes and looked at Yi Chun curiously. Are you guys going to watch the battle between Di Xianming and Yi Chun too? Yi Chun did not answer the question. You guys too? Yeah. Mo Hongxiu seemed to have opened a chatterbox. I've always been locked up in the academy by my father, and I'm about to get sick from holding it in. This time, I heard that there were strong cultivators of the Emperor's Throne realm fighting, so I brought senior brother Mo Rong and the others out for a walk. Cough, cough, cough. Mo Rong coughed repeatedly and interrupted her. He then looked at Yi Chun meaningfully. Junior sister Hongxiu, don't forget what eldest senior brother told you before you left. It's hard to tell what's in a man's heart. Mo Hongxiu knew that she had said something inappropriate. She stuck out her tongue mischievously and did not continue the previous topic. Yi Chun smiled faintly. He vaguely guessed that this inexperienced girl must have snuck out behind the master's back. The world passed by silently. Just as everyone was about to reach the eastern border, Mo Hongxiu couldn't help but ask again, Senior brother Yi, who do you think will win the battle between the 2 Emperor's Throne realm powerhouses? Junior sister, what's the point of asking them? Mo Rong couldn't help but laugh as he said, I'm afraid they haven't even seen an Emperor's Throne before, so how would they know how terrifying an Emperor's Throne is? That's right. Mo Ming glanced at Yi Chun in disdain and said rather proudly, My senior brother from the previous batch is now an official of the Great Een Dynasty. According to him, the Great Een Emperor's might is vast, and his royal aura is like a dragon. He's a rare hero in the world, and he's unfathomable. At this point, he could not help but shake his head and say, Therefore, in my opinion, the Emperor's Throne will definitely lose in this battle. What are you talking about? Xiao He immediately stood up when he heard that and looked at him coldly with an unfriendly expression. Do you dare to repeat what you just said? The 9 Condor Phoenix was stunned at first, but then it looked at Mo Ming with a mocking expression. Its eyes were filled with a spurious smile. In the entire ancient desolate realm, only this little fellow would dare to say that he would lose in front of the emperor. Xiao Hei's ferocious gaze scared Mo Ming. The latter's expression changed as he scoffed. I'm just talking about the emperor's throne powerhouse with the surname Yi. Why are you so agitated? Xiao Hei stared at him coldly. Sit down. Yichen glanced at him and looked at Mo Ming while smiling. Go on. I'd like to hear your opinion too. After Blackus sat down, Mo Ming said with an unhappy expression, I didn't say anything wrong. Don't forget, the Emperor of Great Een is a powerful cultivator of the Emperor's throne realm who has been famous for a long time. Mo Ming, I don't agree with your words. Mo Hongxiu pursed her lips and said, in terms of age, the Jade Lake Divine Lord is older than the Emperor of Great Een. Didn't he still die at the hands of Emperor Yi? Junior apprentice sister Hongxiu, you might not know this, but although the Jade Lake Saint Master Feng Baiyu is older than the Great Yin Sovereign Lord, the lifespan of an Emperor's throne cultivator is only 5,000 years. Mo Nan, who hadn't spoken yet, shook his head and said, it said that the Jade Lake Sacred Master's lifespan was approaching its end. His blood essence had dried up, and his strength had definitely declined. It makes sense that Emperor Lord Yi was able to kill him. He paused for a moment before continuing. Meanwhile, the Great Een Sovereign Lord is at the peak of his power. He has at least 1,000 more years to live. He's not someone the Jade Lake Divine Master can compare to. Mo Hongxiu could not refute what he said. Seeing that both of them agreed with him, Mo Rong could not help but say proudly, that's why I said that Yi will definitely lose. Perhaps he's too young and doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Blackie was so angry that his eyes were burning. However, because Yi Chun did not allow it, he could only suppress his emotions. Yi Chun smiled without saying anything. With his magnanimity, he would not argue with them. Instead, he found it rather interesting. An hour later, the giant black ape finally brought everyone to the eastern border of Central State, near Mount Tangwu. Tens of thousands of kilometers away, a huge purple gourd dashed through the thick clouds. The huge gourd flew for thousands of feet, and wherever it passed, the clouds dispersed. Old man, hurry up, hurry up. If you delay my time to cheer for the son-in-law, you'll have to prepare to receive my punishment. On the giant purple gourd, a beautiful girl in divine clothes and bathed in treasure light urged with all her might. Her beautiful eyes were filled with impatience. My great aunt, this old man, is already very fast. The person who responded to her was a barefoot old man. At that moment, the barefoot old man did not know whether to laugh or cry. He was the patriarch of the Divine Light Palace after all, a supreme figure who stood at the peak of the ancient desolate realm. He did not expect to be free labor for a little girl. However, when he thought of this girl's terrifying talent, he could not help but smile. I don't care. I'll give you an hour. If you can't make it in an hour, you can kill yourself. The girl in divine clothes snorted coldly. Sigh, all right. The barefoot old man took a deep breath and activated the giant purple gourd with all his might. Its speed increased by more than 2 times. Girl, I'll make a promise with you first. If your young master can't beat Di Xianling, you're not allowed to ask me for help. End of this chapter. Chapter 1247. Is this Mount Tangwu? It's so majestic. In the eastern border of Central State, within the territory of the Great Een Imperial Dynasty, Mo Hongxiu and the rest widened their eyes as they looked at the huge mountain before them in shock. In front of everyone, a huge mountain that stretched as far as the eye could see stood between heaven and earth. Under the illumination of the scorching sun, the entire mountain faintly emitted a divine glow, causing one to be unable to help but feel a sense of awe. From afar, it was as if the clouds only covered half of the mountain. Immortal cranes cried together, and a huge stairway of unknown length led straight to the top of the mountain. It looked like it was made of bronze. Yi Chun, on the other hand, was not surprised as he sized it up. As expected of a number 1 divine mountain in the eastern border, Mo Rong could not help but take a deep breath in and say, It's said that Mount Tangwu is 100,000 feet tall, and it's extremely steep and dangerous. If ordinary people want to reach the peak, it'll take them half a year. Moreover, it's extremely dangerous, and this stairway to heaven, it's a work of art. Mo Hongxiu opened her mouth slightly. Even the Gongshu family, which is the most skilled in the art of ingenuity in our academy, would have to spend a lot of manpower and effort to build it. Look, what are those people doing? Mo Ming suddenly pointed into the distance. Everyone looked in the direction he was pointing and saw many people in simple clothes on the stone stairway, 3,000 feet away. They were setting up incense tables and placing livestock sacrifices on them, as if they were worshipping something. At this moment, a faint laugh came from behind them. They are all the citizens of the Great Inn at the foot of Mount Tangwu. Following that, a young man in luxurious clothes walked over slowly. Behind him were several old figures with powerful auras. Mo Rong took a step forward. "Who are you?" "Impudent." Before the young man in luxurious clothes could speak, an old man behind him had a cold gaze and was about to step forward. The young man in luxurious clothes stopped him with a glance. He then clasped his fists at Yi Chun and the rest. "Greetings, everyone. I'm the Prince of Great Inn, Yin Wuan. I'm ranked 9th in my family. So it's Prince Wuan." Mo Rong's expression changed immediately. He clasped his fists nervously. "I was rude earlier. We're from Jixia Academy." As he spoke, he introduced Mo Hongxiu and the rest, leaving out Yi Chun and the rest. "Oh, it's the brilliant students of Jixia Academy." Yin Wuhan became even more polite. "Our great Yin imperial dynasty's 3 dukes all came from your Jixia Academy. Looks like we're on the same side." Yi Chun took a deep look at the 9th-ranked Great Yin's crown prince. After careful calculation, 2 of the Great Yin's crown princes had died at his hands. He just did not know how the former would react if he found out. Both sides flattered each other and quickly became familiar with each other. And Mo Hongxiu couldn't help but ask, "Prince Wuhan, may I ask what those people are doing?" Yin Wuhan glanced at the people who were praying and said coldly, "They're praying to the divine mountain, hoping that my father will kill Yi Chun so that he will never be able to reincarnate." Hearing this, Black immediately took a step forward. "Are you courting death?" "This is?" Yin Wuhan's eyes narrowed. And Mo Hongxiu hurriedly said, "Prince Wuhan, this is senior brother Yi. He was the one who brought us here, I see. I thought he's Ms. Mo's servant." A cold gleam flashed through Yin Wuhan's eyes as he said with a faint smile, "However, even if he's not a servant, please be careful with your words. This is the Great Yin Imperial Dynasty." "Black." Yi Chun glanced at Black. Only then did Black retreat. However, his eyes were filled with killing intent when he looked at Yin Wuhan. The 9-carving phoenix looked at Yin Wuhan with sympathy and shook its head. "What a pitiful child. I don't know if your father will be able to kill this malefic, but your life is over." Sensing that the atmosphere was off, Mo Hongxiu took the initiative to smooth things over for Yi Chun. "Prince Wuhan, it's almost time. Let's go up the mountain." "That's good too." Yin Wuhan glanced at Yi Chun and the rest again. Then, he turned around and walked up Mount Tangwu. Along the way, he introduced the rumors of Mount Tangwu to Mo Hongxiu and the rest, even the customs of the Great Yin Imperial Dynasty. Yi Chun carried his daughter and satisfied the little girl's request to enjoy the scenery. He did not speak to Yin Wuhan and the rest. At that moment, 9 sword gleams passed by them. They broke through the clouds like 9 white waterfalls and went straight to the top of the mountain. They disappeared in the blink of an eye. "Are they from the Great Heaven Sword sect?" Mo Rong and the rest were shocked. Before they could react, another purple dragon soared into the sky and flew over their heads. "Are they from a North Sea dragon subduing hall?" Mo Hongxiu and the rest were even more shocked. "I heard from my father that the purple dragon is the one suppressed by the dragon subduing hall, right? Now that it's here, it seems like the North Sea Dragon Master is here too. The Immovable Light sect is here too. There are people from the Great Xia Imperial Dynasty too. Oh my god, I actually saw the Great Xia Imperial Princess, Hua Qianren, as they got closer to the top of the mountain. Not only Mo Hongxiu and the rest, but also the people from various forces along the way could not help but be shocked speechless. This peerless battle that attracted the attention of the world actually shocked the entire ancient barren world. All the famous forces had rushed over. Among them were peerless sects like the Great Xia Imperial Dynasty, the Great Qi Imperial Dynasty, the Great Qin Imperial Dynasty, and the North Sea Dragon subduing Hull. When everyone reached the top of the mountain, they were all shocked by the scene before them. Floating islands of various sizes filled the sky, and there were already hundreds of thousands of people gathered on them. On the 9 floating islands at the top, there were several figures standing. Even though these people had already restrained their auras, their faint breathing was still like muffled thunder exploding in the air. The emperor of the Great Xia Dynasty, Emperor Hua, the head of the Great Heaven Sword sect, Du Xing, the head of the North Sea Palace, Zi Kunlun, and the emperor of the Great Qin Dynasty, Ing. Everyone's eyes were focused on the few figures, and they almost suffocated. Even Mo Hongxiu, In Wuhan, and the rest were no exception. They were here. These supreme figures who stood at the peak of the ancient barren world had all arrived at this moment. 8 emperors throned. Yichen looked at the 8 figures calmly. In the end, his gaze landed on the largest floating island in the sky. There was a figure in a purple gold robe, sitting cross-legged. His eyes were slightly closed, as if he was a god who accepted the respect of the world. Yichen muttered softly, "Emperor Xianren." At this moment, a middle-aged man with white sideburns slowly spoke on the 9 floating islands. "Everyone, it's time. Emperor Yi hasn't arrived yet. Let's end it here." He was the North Sea Hall Master, Zi Kunlun. The moment he spoke, everyone's expressions changed. They had traveled thousands of kilometers to come here. So how could they be willing to see such an ending? Someone could not help but ask respectfully, "Hall Master, may I ask how this battle will be decided? Will it be considered Emperor Ye's defeat?" Of course. The North Sea Hall Master's eyes were like lightning, and he seemed to be upright and outspoken. Then he glanced at Shi Qianhan below without a trace. What a pity. Beside him, the thin old man with an ancient long sword on his back shook his head slightly. "I thought that Yi Chun was someone to be able to kill Feng Baiyu. I didn't expect him to go back on his word and avoid battle because he's afraid of death." As soon as these words were spoken, many people nodded repeatedly, as if they agreed with Sword Master Hao Tian's words. "Old man Hao Tian, I don't like what you said." He just finished speaking when a middle-aged man in a golden dragon robe on the 5th floating island chuckled. "Since Emperor Lord Yi was able to kill Feng Baiyu, then your ability is naturally extraordinary. So why would you avoid battle?" Although his words were calm, no one below dared to refute him. This was because the former was the Great Xia Emperor, Emperor Hua. In the crowd below, Mo Rong could not help but whisper, "Do you think that Emperor Yi really doesn't dare to come? That's normal." Mo Ming smiled faintly and glanced at Yin Wuhan. Prince Wuhan's father, the Emperor of Great Yin, is suppressing the Eastern world. It's reasonable for Emperor Yi to be afraid. Yin Wuhan pursed his lips as if he was proud. "I believe he will come." Mo Hongxiu shook her head repeatedly. For some reason, she felt that Emperor Yi should not be such a cowardly person. Above, Sword Master Hao Tian snorted coldly and said, "We'll wait for another incense sticks time. If Emperor Yi still hasn't arrived, we'll consider it as loss. At that time, I'd like to see how he'll have the face to stand in my ancient desolate realm." Just as he finished speaking, an indifferent voice came from below. "There's no need to wait. I'm already here." Under everyone's gazes, Yi Chun carried his daughter and stepped into the sky. He walked toward the highest point step by step. His white hair was like an ice waterfall that flowed into the 9 heavens. At that moment, the heavens and earth were deathly silent. At that moment, Mo Hongxiu and the others were stunned. P.S. Chapter 4 has been updated for today. End of this chapter. Chapter 1248. At the peak of Mount Tanwu. At this moment, the world was terrifyingly quiet. Everyone's eyes were focused on the thin figure that was walking in the sky. Under everyone's gaze, the figure stepped on the sky. His black clothes were blazing, and his eyes flickered with a resplendent divine light. He was like a god ascending to the heavens. At that moment, everyone looked up at his sharpness. Everyone was silent and dumbstruck. In the crowd below, Imo Hongshio covered her red lips and stammered. Yi, senior brother Yi, is the Yi. Emperor Yi who killed the Jade Lake Holy Lord? He's Yi Chun. Mo Rong and the others cried out involuntarily. The people behind him opened their eyes wide, and their eyes were filled with disbelief, especially Mo Ming and the other two. When they thought about how they had talked about him losing to Di Xianxiang in front of Yi Chun along the way, the three of them were scared out of their wits. In Wuhan and the rest felt their scalps go numb. They had traveled with an emperor's throne powerhouse all the way, but they did not recognize him. Most importantly, Yi Chun could be considered as their enemy. However, they were still chatting and laughing when they were facing the enemy. When he thought up to here, In Wuhan felt a boundless chill instantly run down his back, and bean-sized cold sweat flowed down in unison. Under everyone's gaze, Yi Chun carried his daughter and ascended to the 9 floating islands at the highest point. He's Yi Chun, the Yi Chun who flattened the Jade Lake Holy Land and killed the Jade Lake Holy Lord by himself? Tisk, he's as young as the rumors say. I'm afraid only the Eastly Emperor can compare to such a young emperor's throne powerhouse in the ancient desolate realm. In an instant, countless powerhouses stood up in shock. The leaders of the great sects sucked in a breath of cold air, their eyes filled with shock. So handsome, he's really so handsome. Many female disciples looked at Yi Chun like they were infatuated. If he could take a look at me, I'd be willing to die now. At the same time, the figures on the 9 floating islands looked at Yi Chun at the same time. That's right. The North Sea Dragon's subduing palace lord was a man of few words. Those who knew him well knew that he had always been like this and rarely praised others. This kid can be said to be peerless in his generation. The great Xia dynasty's emperor, Emperor Hua, looked at Yi Chun with a golden gleam in his eyes. There was a flash of intense amazement deep in his eyes. The great Heaven Sword Sect's master, Du Xing's pupils shrunk violently. He seemed to be shocked by Yi Chun's aura. The great Qin Emperor looked at Yi Chun quietly. A hint of a smile appeared in his deep eyes. Brother Yi, I have to say, you've surprised me time and time again. Yi Chun stopped walking slowly and lifted his eyes to look straight at him. I hope you can give me an explanation for what you said to me before you left that day. Of course. Ing smiled faintly, then seemed to have thought of something. But the premise is that, brother, you can survive this time. After saying that, he looked meaningfully at the towering, unmoving figure on the huge floating island at the highest point. At practically the exact same moment, Di Xianxiang, who was sitting cross-legged at the highest point, suddenly opened his eyes and gazed over. Emperor Lord Yi, since you've arrived, then come up. Thud! Yi Chun placed his hand behind his back and took a step into the air. In the blink of an eye, he arrived at the highest floating island. Swoosh! Yi Chun lifted his gaze slightly and looked at Di Xianxiang, who was hundreds of meters away. At that moment, Di Xianxiang also looked over. Surging divine light erupted from their eyes at that moment. The green light and the blood light collided formlessly. 2 invisible forces shot out at the same time before colliding with a loud bang. Boom! The entire void trembled violently. Under everyone's gazes, a circular wave swept out in all directions with the 2 of them as the center. Wherever it passed, a storm was like a flood. Is this the collision of Emperor Might? Everyone's expression changed. No one knew what Emperor Might was exactly. They only knew that it seemed to be the manifestation of a person's essence, energy, and spirit. At that moment, whether it was the North Sea Hall Master and the others on the 9 floating islands, or the hundreds of thousands of powerhouses from the entire ancient desolate realm below, they were all shocked. Everyone knew that this earth-shattering battle that was hard to come by in 1,000 years had already begun the moment Yi Chun appeared. Who would win and who would lose next would affect everyone's hearts. However, what puzzled many people was that the great Qi Emperor, Jiang Juexian, was not present. One had to know that Yi Chun and Jiang Juexian also had a grudge against each other for killing his son. Shi Qian'an looked at Yi Chun from below and mumbled to himself. Brother Yi, Qian'an believes in you. You can't lose. The great Xia dynasty's imperial daughter, Hua Qianren, also felt her heartbeat quicken. Father said that you're the person with the highest chance of approaching the Eastly Emperor. Senior brother Yi, do your best. Mo Hongxiu puffed her cheeks and shouted, causing the great Yin's imperial son, Yin Wuhan, who was beside her, to have an ugly expression. The latter glanced at Yi Chen coldly and said with a cold smile, "It's a pity that you didn't kill me earlier because you won't have a chance anymore. You're destined to die in my father's hands." Emperor Yi, I have to say that you've surprised me too much. You've reached the emperor's throne at such a young age. If you have the chance to grow, you might even become a legend of the primordial era in the future. Above, Di Xinling looked at Yi Chen quietly. He did not hide his admiration at all. Then, he changed the topic. Unfortunately, you shouldn't have killed my second son. Therefore, your life is destined to be ended by me. You're not the only one who speaks like that. Yi Chen stood proudly in the air while carrying his daughter. He shook his head and said, "However, they all died in my hands in the end. You're not the first, and you won't be the last." Is that so? Not only was Di Xinling not angry, he smiled instead. At the next moment, the void shook violently, and a terrifying crack appeared in the void in front of the two of them. An aura that suppressed heaven and earth spread out. Under everyone's gaze, a figure slowly walked out of the crack. That person's long golden hair seemed to be burning with divine fire. The great Qi Emperor, Jiang Juexian. At that moment, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air at the same time, and their eyes trembled. "Yi, you kill my son, Yi Chen." The Emperor of Great Qi, Jiang Juexian, glared at Yi Chen like two heavenly swords. "If I don't kill you today, how am I going to face the world?" As soon as these words were spoken, the expressions of many people changed, and they faintly noticed that something was off. Jiang Juexian did not appear earlier or later. He just had to appear when Yi Chen was about to fight Di Xianke. "Fellow Jiang." The eyes of the Grand Xia Emperor sank. He said indifferently, "Today is the battle between Emperor Lord Yi and Di Xianke. What do you want to do?" Facing the questioning of the Emperor of Grand Xia, Tianzi Hua, Jiang Juexian looked at him coldly and said, "Emperor Hua, I am avenging my son. Why should I care about the occasion? Could it be that you want to stop me? If you want to take revenge, we naturally have no objections." The Grand Xia Emperor furrowed his brows slightly as he spoke in a deafening voice. "But isn't today's occasion a little inappropriate? You can wait until the battle between Emperor Lord Yi and Emperor Xianxiang is over." What a joke. A hint of mockery appeared at the corner of Jiang Juexian's mouth. "Emperor Hua, my goal is to kill Yi, not to fight him one-on-one. Why should I care about fairness when it comes to my enemies?" As soon as he finished speaking, Emperor Hua's expression changed slightly, as if he had realized something. Zi Kunlun said calmly, "Jiang Juexian, are you saying that you want to join forces with Di Xianxiang and fight two against one?" "So what?" Jiang Juexian admitted it openly. "Even if we take 10,000 steps back, if he dies in the hands of Di Xianxiang, wouldn't my son's revenge be in vain?" As soon as these words were spoken, the crowd below burst into an uproar. Clearly, they did not expect such a change in the battle. "What do you want to do? We have no objections." Zi Kunlun, the Lord of the North Sea Hall, slightly nodded his head and said in a mocking tone, "But you are still the Lord of the Great Qi Imperial Dynasty, yet you joined hands with someone else. If this gets out, I'm afraid you will be the laughingstock of the world. Who dares to laugh at me?" When Jiang Juexian heard this, his incomparably dignified gaze swept across the crowd below. His voice was like thunder that shook people's hearts, and no one dared to look directly at him. It was over. Emperor Yi was finished this time. Many people shook their heads secretly. Most people did not think highly of Yi Chen's battle with Di Xianxiang. Now that Jiang Juexian had joined in, what chance did he have? Yi Chen's expression was calm from the beginning to the end. At this moment, a faint voice came from the 9 floating islands. "Brother Yi, as long as you agree to my previous condition, I will join forces with you to fight the two of them." End of this chapter. Chapter 1249. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice and saw the great Qin Emperor looking at Yi Chan with a faint smile. As his voice fell, Jiang Juexian and Di Xian Ke's eyes darkened. Di Xian Ke looked at him coldly and said, Ying. Both Jiang Juexian and Di Xian Ke were afraid of Ying's combat strength. The three of them had fought more than once. Ying ignored Di Xian Ke's gaze and looked at Yi Chan. Brother Yi, what do you think? Yi Chan lifted his eyes slowly and looked at him calmly. No one could tell what he was thinking at all. Promise him, promise him. Countless people clenched their fists and almost shouted. To them, Yi Chan would definitely die if it was a 2-on-1 fight. He might still have a chance of survival if he won. Jiang Juexian and Di Xian Ke's faces were also extremely tense. Under everyone's gaze, a smile suddenly appeared on Yi Chen's face. Subsequently, he said word by word, I'm sorry. I told you that I won't interfere with your matter. As soon as he finished speaking, the entire place fell into a dead silence. Countless people widened their eyes and looked at Yi Chan in disbelief. They thought they had heard wrong. The smile on Ying's face slowly froze. He moved and landed beside Jiang Juexian. Ying stared straight at Yi Chan and said expressionlessly, Brother Yi, you trespassed into my great Qin dynasty's capital a few days ago and killed the innocent. I want an explanation from you. As soon as these words came out, it was like a stone that caused 1,000 ripples. Everyone felt as if their minds were being bombarded by lightning. Ying also joined the battle. Moreover, he was going to join forces with Di Xuanke and Jiang Juexian to fight Yi Chan. This meant that it was 3 against 1. In an instant, countless people were terrified to death. After Ying's eye said that, he stared at Yi Chen's expression. Brother Yi, have you ever regretted it? Regret? Yi Chen squinted and looked into his eyes. I've said it a long time ago that I won't interfere in your business, and I won't let you interfere in mine. That was his bottom line. Yi Chen had always stayed away from Ying, so he did not want to get involved. What a pity. Ying shook his head slightly and looked at him with pity. You and I have known each other for a long time. I didn't expect to become enemies today. Foster father. Shi Qianhan couldn't help but shout from below. 3 emperors, throne stage fighters, teamed up to fight Yi Chan. In his opinion, Yi Chan had no chance of winning at all. The North Sea Hall Master, Zi Kunlun, sighed softly. Just as he was about to step forward, he saw a purple serpent flying over from the horizon. The purple flood dragon's majestic body seemed to cover the entire world. It faintly emitted a monstrous aura that caused everyone's hearts to tremble. Old man Biming, you want to interfere? The purple flood dragon spoke in the human language, its voice shaking thousands of miles. Then it turned into an old man dressed in black and landed next to Jiang Juexian. Demon Lord Fu Yuntian. Everyone was shocked to the core. The hall master stared at the old man with a dark expression. Fu Yuntian, you still dare to appear before me? There had always been a deep hatred between the North Sea Dragon, subduing Hall, and the demon realm. This hatred had lasted for thousands of years. In these thousands of years, there had been countless deaths and injuries on both sides. Old man Biming. Demon Lord Fu Yuntian smirked coldly. I'm not here to fight you today. As he said that, he pointed at Yi Chan. This brat took away someone from my demon realm. I'm here for him. At that moment, Xiao Hei's expression changed. He looked at Fu Yuntian with a ferocious gaze. After he descended to the ancient desolate realm, he wandered into the demon realm and accidentally entered the demon emperor's tomb to obtain the inheritance. Fu Yuntian tried to control him and seize the inheritance in his body. Everyone was so shocked by the series of changes that they were speechless. Looks like you're here to kill me too. Yi Chen looked at Fu Yuntian coldly. You came at the right time. I wanted to go to the demon realm to get an explanation from you a long time ago. You've saved me the trouble of making a trip myself today. You're still boasting shamelessly even when you're about to die. Fu Yuntian smirked coldly. Don't forget that you won't even have a chance to escape today when 4 Emperor's throne powerhouses join forces. Who else wants to kill me? Yi Chen looked around and glanced at every single figure. Step forward. I'll take care of all of you. The North Sea Palace Master, the Great Xia Emperor, and the rest sighed softly and chose to remain silent. Even though the 2 of them had a good impression of Yi Chen, They knew very well that even if they attacked, it would be useless in such a situation. I want to kill you as well. At this moment, the clear sky sword master, Du Xing, who was on the 9 floating islands, rode a sword gleam and arrived. He glared at Yi Chun coldly with killing intent. You killed my clear sky sword sex disciple, Li Qingtan. You'll pay for Qingtan's death today. With the addition of the clear sky sword master, Du Xing, the entire Mount Tang Wu fell into an abnormal silence. 5 Emperor's Throne powerhouses. All 5 Emperor's Throne powerhouses wanted to kill Yi Chun. Moreover, they had a grudge against Yi Chun. In the entire ancient desolate realm, this was the first time such a huge scene had happened in the past 5,000 years. Everyone was shocked. They could not help but look at Yi Chun sympathetically as if they were looking at a dead man. Very well. Yi Chun's expression remained unchanged like ice that would not melt for 1,000 years. Today, 5 more Emperor's Throne powerhouses will die under my hands. The world was silent, and no one spoke. Everyone thought that Yi Chun was crazy. He dared to boast so shamelessly while facing 5 Emperor's Throne powerhouses alone. What else could he be if not crazy? Shi Qianhan clenched his fists tightly, his nails piercing into his flesh. Brother Yi, I hate you. I hate you so much. I hate myself for not being able to share your burden. If you want to kill my master, kill me first. Xiao He roared and transformed into a black dragon that soared into the sky. It stood in front of Yi Chun to protect him. Its monstrous might was fighting the 5 Emperor's Throne powerhouses alone. You think you can do that with this beast? Jiang Juexian sneered and looked at Xiao He. I still lack him out. If you're willing to submit, I can spare your life. However, Xiao He's furious roar responded to him. The 9 eagle phoenix below let out a long cry and transformed into its true form. It landed next to Yi Chun. I won't allow you to kill my master. 9 eagle phoenix. Di Xuanxiang, who had never spoken, took a deep look at the 9 eagle phoenix and said expressionlessly, You're the Jade Lake Sacred Land's holy mountain guardian beast. Logically speaking, you have an irreconcilable grudge with Yi. Why do you want to die with him? Even Yi Chun could not help but look at the 9 eagle phoenix in surprise. He did not expect the latter to be willing to support him in such a situation. Di Xuanxiang, the 9 eagle Wan, said expressionlessly, Don't waste your breath. I want to see how capable you, the ruler of the great Yin imperial dynasty, are. Although it said that, it was secretly complaining. There was nothing it could do. Its soul blood was in Yi Chun's hands. Secondly, it realized that Yi Chun had been very calm from the beginning to the end, as if he was confident. It could not see through him, so it could only take the risk. Very well. Since that's the case, the 3 of you shall die here today. Di Xuanxiang narrowed his eyes slightly, and shocking killing intent burst out of his eyes, causing the atmosphere in this area to turn completely cold. Everyone, let's attack together and kill them. Jiang Juexian shouted. A thick emperor's might that could shake heaven and earth erupted from his body and pressed down on Yi Chun. What a pity! The North Sea Hall master, the great Xia emperor, and the rest looked at each other and saw the pity in each other's eyes. To them, Yi Chun had reached the emperor's throne stage at such a young age. In the future, he might be able to reach a higher level. Who would have thought that he would die here today? Senior brother Yi. Mo Hongxiu's eyes were red. Although she had just met Yi Chun gave her a very approachable feeling along the way. Just like a big brother, she really did not want to see Yi Chun bleed here. On the other hand, Mo Rong and the rest did not care. It's over. In Wuhan, the great Yin emperor, who was next to him, revealed a cruel smile as if he could see Yi Chun's soul being destroyed. Just when the great battle was about to break out, a delicate cry suddenly exploded in the vast sky. Who dares to kill my son-in-law? This sudden voice caused the battle to freeze. Everyone, including Jiang Juexian and the other 4, suddenly looked towards the southeast horizon. There was a giant purple gourd flying across the sky. It was like a blazing sun that pushed aside the clouds and mist, emitting a divine light that reached the heavens. Its momentum was astonishing. End of this chapter. Chapter 1250. He heard that vaguely familiar voice. Yichen looked over as well. He saw a small figure in divine clothes on the giant purple gourd. Is it that girl? In an instant, Yichen's calm face could not help but reveal a hint of shock. Under everyone's gaze, the giant purple gourd approached from afar, and two figures slowly descended from it. The leader was a young girl. She was wearing a colorful divine robe, and her entire body was surging with intense divine light. She walked over slowly, giving off the feeling that a dazzling sun had descended into the mortal world. The new saintess of the Divine Light Palace, Yan Jiao. Almost at that moment, Jiang Juexian and the others exclaimed in unison, as if they were extremely surprised. Someone below sucked in a breath of cold air. Clearly, they had recognized the identity of the person. The Divine Light Palace was a special force in the extreme north of the ancient desolate realm. They believed in light. They never participated in the grudges of the outside world, but they did not dare to let outsiders look down on them. The young girl in divine clothes was the new saintess of the Divine Light Palace, Yan Jiao. She had awakened the body of light that was rare in the Divine Light Palace in 1,000 years. Behind the young girl was a barefooted old man. The old man was dressed simply and had an ordinary appearance. He had a red nose and a purple gourd on his waist. He gave off the feeling that he was an alcoholic. However, his appearance made Di Xianming and the other four extremely fearful. It was because the other party was the patriarch of the Divine Light Palace, an existence that no one knew how long he had lived for. Under everyone's gaze, the young girl in the colorful divine clothes who was walking at the front rushed all the way to Yichen and threw herself into Yichen's arms. Son-in-law, Jiao finally sees you again. The young girl was like a koala bear. She grabbed onto Yichen tightly, as if she was afraid that he would run away. Her dreamy voice rang out. As soon as that was said, the entire place fell into dead silence. Countless people were so shocked that their jaws almost dropped. They could not believe this scene. Even Di Xianming and the others were no exception. The dignified saintess of the Divine Light Palace actually called Yi Chen's son-in-law. Moreover, her words and actions were so intimate. Seeing this scene, the barefooted old man at the side seemed to be helpless. He could only pick up the purple gourd at his waist and gulp it down. Feeling the warmth coming from his hand, Yichen pulled his hand out and patted the little girl's head. He said while smiling, "You're still the same as before." It had only been a month since they last saw each other, but the young and inexperienced girl had completely grown into a beautiful girl with peerless talent. A crafty glint flashed through Jiao eyes. Then, she deliberately puffed out her chest. "Son-in-law, am I really the same as before?" Yichen was speechless. Then, he seemed to have thought of something and said while retracting the smile on his face, "Your young mistress." He didn't know how to explain Mu Caiwei's matter to this girl. Perhaps this matter could become a barrier between the two of them. "Son-in-law, I understand." Jiao body stiffened slightly, and tears immediately flowed down her cheeks. "I tried to persuade young miss not to cultivate that cultivation method, but she didn't listen. She even quarreled with me. A month ago, she and Mu Caiwei were brought to the Light Palace and the Jade Lake Sacred Land respectively. Half a month later, Jiao was tested to have a body of light, alarming the Light Patriarch and becoming the saintess of the Light Palace. The smart and quick-witted Jiao was extremely favored by the Light Patriarch, so she took the opportunity to visit Mu Caiwei in the Jade Lake Sacred Land. The Light Patriarch personally escorted her in secret. Jiao rushed to the Jade Lake Sacred Land to see Mu Caiwei happily, but she found out that the latter was in closed-door cultivation, leaving Meng Meng behind. At that time, Jiao noticed that something was wrong. When Mu Caiwei came out of closed-door cultivation, she realized that the latter's personality had changed drastically. She had become cold and heartless. After Jiao found out the reason, she persuaded Mu Caiwei to give up cultivating. However, the latter, who was blinded by hatred, refused to listen. In the end, they parted on bad terms. Even if Jiao suggested bringing Meng Meng to the Light Palace and letting her take care of her, Mu Caiwei would not allow it. As Jiao told him what happened while crying, Chin's gaze when he looked at her became much gentler. He had done so much for Mu Kaiwei. In the end, Mu Kaiwei could not compare to this maidservant who used to follow him and call him son-in-law. Son-in-law, don't blame young mistress anymore. Jiao wiped her tears and pleaded. Young mistress thought you were dead and wanted to avenge you. That's why she became like that. I've let it go a long time ago. Chin shook his head lightly. At that moment, Sword Master Clear Sky interrupted him with a cold smile. You're about to die, and you're still in a mood to flirt with me? Jiao turned around and glared at him with her almond-shaped eyes. Old man, what are you talking about? B** starred. Sword Master Clear Sky was furious. Di Xianming looked at the barefoot old man who was drinking and frowned. Is the Light Palace going to interfere in today's matter? Before the barefoot old man could speak, Jiao hugged Chin tightly and said to the barefoot old man, Old man, if son-in-law dies, I won't live anymore. I say, little girl, didn't you promise me before we came? The barefoot old man smiled helplessly. I don't care. Jiao bit her lip and said stubbornly, If you don't help son-in-law today, I'll kill myself in front of you. Let's see where you'll find a better successor than me. Chin looked at the little girl who was protecting him quietly. A warm feeling flowed through his heart. The barefoot old man fell silent when he heard that. Then he looked at Jiang Juexian and the rest. Guys, give me some face and let's forget about today's matter. Radiant Patriarch, don't you think too highly of yourself? Demon Lord Fu Yuntian sneered. You're about to die. How can you have so much face? Di Xianming said expressionlessly. Brother, as long as you leave with your men today and don't interfere in this matter, we won't stop you. So, there's nothing to talk about? The barefoot old man glanced at the five of them and sighed softly. Then I'll have to exercise my muscles today. As soon as he said that, the world fell silent. He still wanted to help Chin despite knowing that the five emperors' throne stage powerhouses would definitely kill him. Thank you, old man. Jiao cried tears of joy and said, Don't worry. When you die, I'll definitely visit your grave every year. The barefoot old man was speechless. How arrogant. A cold glint surged in Jiang Juexian's eyes. Radiant Patriarch, don't forget that even with you, there are only two of you. How can you be a match for the five of us? As soon as he said that, everyone could not help but nod subconsciously, as if they agreed. That was right. Even with the Radiant Patriarch, it was still 2 against 5. There was still no chance of winning. What if I'm included? Right at this moment, deafening laughter came from the sky. Fellow Yi, I'm here. Hurry up and welcome me. Under everyone's gazes, a black shadow appeared in the sky. As the black shadow approached, everyone saw that it was a sedan chair floating in the air. Only then did everyone see that it was a palanquin floating in the air. However, the palanquin did not have a roof and was exposed to the air. A palanquin was carried by 4 white-clothed women as they walked through the air. On the palanquin, there was a black-clothed young man lying on his back. Each of his hands was holding a delicate woman. Other than that, there were 2 women peeling grapes and putting one into the young man's mouth from time to time. Not bad, not bad. Serve me well. If I'm happy, I might even give you a few pills to eat. The air was filled with the young man's almost lewd laughter. At that moment, everyone was dumbfounded. P.S. The 3rd chapter has been updated for today. By the way, I said that I would update 5 chapters the next day. I did it. I didn't say that I would always update 5 chapters in the future. If I'm in good condition, I'll write more. If I'm in bad condition, I'll try my best to keep updating 3 chapters. Into this chapter. Chapter 1251. Almost as soon as the Yellow Spring Patriarch appeared, at a place hundreds of thousands of miles away from Mount Tangwu, the river was gurgling, and the sound of waves was endless. 2 figures were sitting by the river. They were 2 old men, and there was a fire in front of them. The aroma of grilled fish filled the air. The sloppy old Taoist on the left didn't care about how hot his hands were. He held a roasted fish in one hand and wolfed it down. That's the 3rd one. The gray-robed old man on the right looked in the direction of Mount Tangwu. He seemed surprised. Old Chi, you're right. That person from a long kingdom has appeared. Old man, I don't mean to nag, but you're already so old. Why are you worrying so much? The sloppy old Taoist rolled his eyes and said in a muffled voice, You should learn from me. You should eat and drink as you should. If you were to kick the bucket one day, your life would not have been in vain. You've been eating for thousands of years. The gray-robed old man shook his head helplessly. He frowned and said, Even with the light patriarch and that person from a long kingdom, there are only 3 of us. Our chances of winning aren't high. The sloppy old man wiped his greasy hands on his clothes. He picked his teeth and said, If we have to fight 5 to win, why should we pay attention to that brat? The gray-robed old man remained silent. Don't forget, the sloppy old man scoffed. Although the situation might change if we join the battle, that person from the academy has been looking for us. The gray-robed old man's expression changed when he heard that. He seemed to be extremely fearful of that academy master. The sloppy old man said with a toothpick in his mouth, If we fight, that person from the academy won't just sit by and watch. The situation will be even more troublesome. He turned around and said to the girl with the birthmark who was fishing by the river, Xiao man, give your Aunt Masterpan a big carp. The girl with the birthmark responded with an "Oh." She stared at the water with the steel fork in her hand. Suddenly, she noticed that there was a thick fog on the originally clear river. A figure slowly walked over from the thick fog. It seemed to be a man in a green robe. He looked to be in his 20s and was very young. The girl with the birthmark quietly looked at him because she discovered that there was a trace of a special charm about this person. Even though he was a man, his eyes were beautiful to the point of being ethereal. In that instant, the sloppy old Taoist and the old man who had been sitting on the riverside stood up at the same time and looked at the newcomers with serious expressions. The green-robed man did not seem to notice the gazes of the 3 people. He calmly walked to the side of the fire and sat down. He looked at the golden fish roasted on the fire and asked, Can I eat it? His voice was soft and magnetic. The sloppy old man looked at him calmly. You still came looking for me. The fish is going to be burnt. The green-robed man stretched out his hand and flipped the rod. He said softly, My Jisha Academy also has fish in the back mountain. It's better than this. Follow me back. Kuyunzi, you and I are both food in the eyes of others. Why do you have to force us? Why are you willing to be a dog? The gray-robed elder's lips moved slightly, almost as if he was complaining. Back then, my master Dong Li and your close friends eat. The green-robed man's expression did not change. His aura was refined, as if he did not belong to the human world. He was as ethereal as a true immortal. At the peak of Mount Tanwu, at this moment, everyone widened their eyes as they looked at the gigantic palanquin in the sky that looked like a pair of wings that covered the sky. Chunlon, Shaha, Qiuju, Dongmei, use more strength. You guys are so soft. Could it be that the patriarch didn't feed you guys enough last night? Yes, yes, yes. That's it. Use more strength. The patriarch of hell sat alone on the palanquin, allowing the palanquin to be carried in the air. He hugged the women on his left and right, enjoying the bliss of having multiple partners. Everyone stared at this scene with their mouths agape. Where did this weird combination come from? Even among the hundreds of thousands of people watching the battle, there was no lack of peerless sect leaders, but they had never seen such an appearance. Patriarch. A look of shock flashed across Yi Chen's calm face. Subsequently, he seemed to have thought of something. Did he break through? The patriarch is awesome. Xiao He blurted out. Who are you? Stop right now. Seeing that the patriarch of hell and the others were heading straight for the top of the mountain, the experts of the great Yin imperial dynasty took a step forward in an attempt to stop them. Boom! That person erupted with the cultivation of a 9-revolution martial saint, and a terrifying pressure charged straight at the 4 women carrying the palanquin. The patriarch of hell did not care at all. He waved his sleeve. Where did this old dog come from? How dare he stop the patriarch's carriage? Bang! With a loud bang, the 9-revolution martial saint's body immediately let out a crisp sound that sounded like porcelain shattering. He let out a blood-curdling scream before his body exploded, turning into a bloody mist that completely disappeared. Dead silence. The world suddenly fell into dead silence. Everyone widened their eyes in disbelief as they looked at the black-clothed young man on the palanquin. He killed a 9-revolution martial saint with a raise of his hand. An emperor's throne powerhouse. This person must be an emperor's throne powerhouse. At that moment, the expressions of all the emperor's throne powerhouses, including Di Xianming, Jiang Juexian, and the other 4, changed. When it was less than 3,000 meters away from the top of the mountain, the palanquin suddenly stopped. Little beauties, wait here for the patriarch. I'll come back to torment you guys after the fight. As the laughter faded, the black-clothed young man in the palanquin swayed. He shot straight to the top of the mountain and landed next to Yi Chun in the end. Fellow Yi, it's my turn to save you now, right? The patriarch of hell chuckled as he looked at Yi Chun. There was a hint of reluctance on his face. I haven't enjoyed myself enough in a Huang kingdom. When I heard that you were fighting someone, I was afraid that you would be killed, so I rushed over. Congratulations, patriarch. Yi Chun chuckled softly and congratulated him sincerely. Naturally, he could tell that the patriarch had already stepped into God transformation stage. Even though he was mentally prepared, there was still a ripple in his heart. The former's speed was simply too fast. He had always benefited from the secret treasure left behind by the founding empress of a Huang kingdom. Everyone looked at that scene in disbelief. They did not expect Yi Chun to know an emperor's throne powerhouse. Moreover, looking at the two of them, they seemed to be close. However, who was this emperor's throne powerhouse? Why had they never heard of him? In an instant, countless people's minds raced. Fellow, may I know who you are? At that moment, Jiang Juexian, who could not hold it in any longer, looked straight at the patriarch of hell and probed. Today is a personal grudge between us and Yi. I hope you won't interfere. The eyes of Di Xuanxiang and the rest flickered. From the scene of the patriarch killing the 9-revolution martial saint with a raise of his hand, they were already certain that the patriarch was an emperor's throne powerhouse. However, they did not know where the patriarch came from. Only Ying's expression remained unchanged. He seemed to know about the existence of the patriarch of hell. What doubt? The patriarch of hell sneered with a peerless dominance. Today, I'll make it clear. Whoever dares to touch fellow Yi, I'll kill them. If you like Evil Dad in the City, please collect Evil Dad in the City. Chapter 1252. You're courting death. Swordmaster Great Heaven's expression turned cold as he stared at the patriarch of hell with killing intent. Even with you, there are only 3 of you. How can you stop the 5 of us? Old thing. The patriarch of hell narrowed his eyes, and a cold glint shot out from them. Do you have a daughter? Swordmaster Great Heaven did not know why he asked such a question, but he still sneered and said, Not only do I have a daughter, but I also have dozens of granddaughters. Very well, I'll kill you later. The patriarch of hell suddenly grinned. I'll kill my way into your Great Heaven Sword sect and kill all your daughters. You're courting death. Swordmaster Great Heaven was furious, and his sword chi was like a flood. Why? You're not convinced? The patriarch of hell glanced at him and said domineeringly, I'll suppress you with one hand later. Do it. Di Xuanxiang narrowed his eyes, and his expression was extremely indifferent. There are only 3 of them. No matter what, they're no match for us today. Do it. At that moment, the 5 of them attacked at the same time. 5 waves of Emperor might soared into the sky, and the space in front of them collapsed directly. Kill! Yi Chun suddenly shouted coldly. You're the ones who forced me to start a massacre. Today I'll kill the 5 of you trash, slaughter your juniors, and destroy your orthodoxy. Kill! The killing intent of the patriarch of hell and the patriarch of light shook the sky. Rumble, 8 waves of Emperor might collided with each other. For a moment, heaven and earth shook as if the sky was about to collapse. It shocked the people below. Ing roared at the sky. He bared his fangs, and corpse energy soared into the sky. A pair of purple gold bone wings swept across the sky and charged at Yi Chun. Let me fight you, the greatest emperor in history. The patriarch of hell spoke. He waved his sleeve, and the void cracked. He actually took the initiative to face Ing. You? Ing sneered. His voice shook heaven and earth. A pair of purple gold bone wings caused the sky to tremble as he charged at the patriarch of hell. Jiang Jueshian, your opponent is me. The radiant patriarch stepped into the air with his bare feet. He held the purple gold gourd in his hand and slowly took a sip of wine. Jiang Jueshian had no choice but to be on guard. In an instant, Azing and Jiang Jueshian were entangled. Only Di Xianku, Demon Lord Fu Yintian, and Clear Sky Sword Master Du Xing were left. I've already said that even if you have 2 more helpers, they still won't be able to save you. In the end, you won't be able to escape death. Di Xuanming's emperor might shook the heavens. He led the sword master of Great Heaven and the other person behind him and charged at Yi Chun in a square formation. Yi Chun's expression remained the same as he passed his daughter to the 9 Condor Luan next to him. The 9 Eagle Luan had lived for countless years. Its cultivation was higher than the 9 Revolution Martial Saint realm, but it was below the Emperor's Throne realm. Unless an Emperor's Throne realm expert made a move, no one could do anything to it. Moreover, the soul blood of the 9 Eagle Phoenix was still in his hands, so he was at ease handing his daughter over to the former. Go, Daddy. The little girl did not make a fuss and allowed the 9 Carving Phoenix to carry her to the side. She stared at Yi Chun with her dark eyes. I'll kill all of you today. Yi Chun watched the scene expressionlessly and said coldly, let the ancient desolate realm know that I, Yi Chun, am not to be bullied. As soon as he finished speaking, he took a step forward, and it was precisely this step that caused his entire figure to change greatly. He was covered in golden divine robes, and no matter if it was his hair or his face, they were all suffused with a divine glow that reached the heavens. It was as if he was covered in pure gold. It was the true form of the Knight Demon battle armor. At the same time, a strand of supreme dignity and a terrifying aura that vowed to annihilate everything emanated from his body and swept through the heavens and the earth. The people below were first shocked by his transformation, and then their hearts were filled with endless shock and excitement. Had this unprecedented battle finally begun? Whoosh! A beam of sword light shot into the sky, tearing through the clouds and tearing the void apart. That was the embodiment of the supreme sword intent. You still dare to boast shamelessly in the face of death. Sword Master Hao Qian held a Dao sword in his hand and slashed at Yi Chun as if he was going to slash the sky down. That aura was too terrifying. Yi Chun was fearless. He took another step forward and crossed 3,000 meters. He slapped with his hand and covered the sky with one hand. He used his powerful physical strength to resist Sword Master Hao Qian's sword. Clang! As Yi Chun attacked, the huge hand slashed away Sword Master Hao Qian's sword chi directly. Then, it pushed him back under Sword Master Hao Qian's shocked gaze. What a powerful body! Sword Master Hao Qian's heart chilled. Roar! A purple dragon soared into the sky. It was incomparably huge, and every scale emitted a cold gleam. Its eyes were like pools of blood as it charged at Yi Chun with a monstrous, murderous aura. It was the Demon Lord, Fu Yintian. Buzz! Yi Chun moved against the wind. His eyes were cold and merciless. He waved his fist and threw a punch. His punch was very slow, but it was so terrifying that it made one's soul tremble. It was as if the entire world could not withstand this punch. At that moment, Demon Lord Fu Yintian, who had revealed his true form, felt a chill run down his spine. However, he was less than 30 meters away from Yi Chun at that moment. He had no choice but to shoot. Dragon fights in the wild. Demon Lord Fu Yintian let out a dragon's roar. A pair of ferocious dragon claws that could crush a mountain descended from the sky and charged at Yi Chun. Rumble. Every time Yi Chun swung his fist, there was a power that could shatter heaven and earth. Every punch landed on Demon Lord Fu Yuntian's gigantic body. The earth-shattering might cause the hundreds of thousands of people below to fall silent. The shock in their hearts erupted like an avalanche. This was an Emperor's Throne powerhouse. Any Emperor's Throne powerhouse was an existence that stood at the peak of the ancient desolate realm. In their eyes, all living beings were no different from ants. In the distance, Hall Master Bai Yun, The great Xia Emperor and the rest stared at this scene intently, afraid that they would miss any detail. The battle between Emperor's throne powerhouses was also useful to them. They could use the process to understand their own shortcomings. Brother Yi, Shi Qianhan watched the scene uneasily. He was afraid that something would happen to Yi Chun. After all, his opponents were three Emperor's throne powerhouses. Senior Brother Yi, you can do it. Mo Hongxiu clenched her fists tightly, her expression extremely nervous. In Wuhan, who was beside her, could not help but sneer when he saw this. Just as everyone was silent, an earth-shattering roar rang out. No, this roar seemed to have spread throughout the entire Mount Tangwu, the great Yin imperial dynasty, and even the entire central continent. In the void, a huge purple figure suddenly exploded. A large amount of golden blood poured out, and the sky was instantly dyed golden. An emperor's throne powerhouse had fallen. Everyone's eyes instantly glazed over. That was the demon lord, Fu Yuntian. His body was blown up by Yi Chen's punch, and the former soul that escaped was shattered by Yi Chen's palm strike. Demon lord? At that moment, Di Xuanxiang and Sword Master Hao Ian roared in unison, their eyes filled with disbelief. Even Ying and Jiang Juexian, who were fighting the Patriarch of Hell and the Patriarch of Light, were filled with extreme shock at that moment. He had blown up an emperor's throne powerhouse with a single punch. Chapter 1253. The Demon Lord was killed with a single punch. At this moment, on Mount Tangwu, there was an eerie silence in the sky and on the ground. Countless people stared at the blood mist in the sky with their mouths agape. In the end, their gazes fixed on the figure that looked like a supreme god walking in the world. That was an emperor's throne, a supreme figure that guarded the demon region. He was actually killed with a single punch. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, how could they believe what they saw? The North Sea Hall Master, the Great Xia Emperor, and the other neutral emperor's throne cultivators were also shocked. Too powerful. Shi Qianhan was also extremely shocked as he muttered to himself, Emperor's throne, son-in-law, is invincible. Jiao was filled with admiration. Mo Hongxiu's beautiful eyes widened. Senior Brother Yi is so powerful. Mo Rong and the rest behind her were already stunned. Only their violently constricted pupils showed that their emotions were fluctuating like a tide. How is this possible? In Wuhan, the Emperor of Great Yin, revealed a look of disbelief. This malefic has become stronger again. The Nine Condor Phoenix, who was hugging Meng Meng, sucked in a breath of cold air. Her eyeballs almost popped out. This brat is indeed very similar to the Eastly Emperor back then. Ha ha! The dead silence was suddenly broken by a burst of wild laughter. The Patriarch of Hell, who was fighting with Yuing, laughed out loud. Good kill. Di Xuanca's face twitched, and his expression was terrifyingly gloomy. Sword Master Great Heaven, what are you waiting for? Attack with all your might and kill him. Although the Demon Lord died because he underestimated his enemy, Yi Chen's strength was beyond his imagination. He was sure that Yi Chen was not weaker than him. If he did not kill him today and gave him time to grow, he would definitely become a nightmare for them in the future. Thinking to this point, he let out a long roar and spat out a dragon pearl. It turned into a killing treasure and charged at Yi Chen directly. That's the kingdom-guarding dragon pearl. Someone stared fixedly at the dragon pearl, which was filled with supreme luck, and subconsciously cried out involuntarily. I didn't expect Di Xuanca to even take out the kingdom-guarding dragon pearl. Looks like he's made up his mind to kill Emperor Yi. The expressions of the North Sea Hall Master and the rest changed. Boom! Yi Chen's aura skyrocketed. His thick, white hair fluttered like a waterfall from the nine heavens. He swung his fist and threw the 6 paths of reincarnation fist at the dragon orb. Boom! Deafening explosions rang out one after another. That one punch caused the surrounding space to collapse, the earth to crack, and the mountains to crumble into dust. Kill! The great Heaven Sword Master took advantage of this gap and unleashed a peerless sword chi. The blood-colored killing sword slashed at Yi Chen's head like a heavenly river pouring down majestically. This scene was abnormally horrifying. He waved his sword with one hand, as if he wanted to cut down the heavens and destroy everything. Sword Realm. This is the sword realm of Sword Master Clear Sky. The gaze of the Grand Xia Emperor froze. As the #1 swordsman in the ancient barren world, the Sword Master of Haoyan used his swordsmanship to create a realm of swords. This realm enveloped his enemies, and sword aura surged in all directions. Sacred Dragon Totem! At the same time, Di Xianming shouted. Endless Imperial Dragon energy shot toward the Dragon Pearl that was entangling Yi Chen. Buzz! The Dragon Pearl surged in the sky and vaguely transformed into a golden dragon that was 300 meters long. The dragon energy around its body was terrifying. It waved its dragon claws and charged at Yi Chen. Both of them are serious. Everyone was shocked, and their expressions were extremely solemn. A powerhouse's eyes lit up, and he said, Emperor Yi is in danger. Di Xianming and the Sword Master of Haoyan attacked from the front and back. Clearly, they wanted Yi Chen to be attacked from the back so that he would not have the chance to attack one of them. You're playing this trick with me? Yi Chen's eyes turned cold. Subsequently, his crystal-clear right hand clenched his fingers into a fist. He smashed the hammer into the sky and charged at the golden dragon shadow. He actually ignored the Sword Master of Haoyan, who was slashing at him from behind. Everyone was in an uproar. Is he crazy? He actually doesn't care about the Sword Master of Haoyan behind him. Die! The Sword Master of Haoyan roared. The golden sword in his hand clanged as it descended from the sky and landed accurately on Yi Chen's back. At the same time, a cold smirk could not help but appear at the corner of his lips. How dare you ignore my sword realm? You deserve to die without a complete corpse. Someone in the crowd cried out in shock and closed his eyes subconsciously, as if he could not bear to see the bloody scene that was about to happen. Clang. However, in the next moment, the Sword Master of Haoyan's sword produced a dazzling golden gleam on Yi Chen's back, as if it had hit an extremely hard object. In an instant, countless people were dumbfounded. What kind of terrifying body was that? Facing the Sword Master of Haoyan's powerful sword, he was actually unscathed? What a powerful body! The North Ocean Hall Master and the Great Xia Emperor could not help but look at each other. They could see the shock in each other's eyes. How is this possible? The smile on Haoyan's face froze. In the next moment, it was covered by deep shock. Kacha, with a crisp sound, cracks appeared on the heavenly cloud Dao sword in his hand, and then it turned into fragments that scattered into the air. The series of changes happened in the blink of an eye. As Yi Chen's punch soared into the sky, it eventually landed on the giant golden dragon shadow. 6 paths of reincarnation fist. Rumble. This punch produced the sound of a huge copper striking a bell, as if it was going to shatter the world. He was invincible. Bang! Under this punch, the giant golden dragon phantasm and the dragon bead in the void exploded, turning in a surging power that swept out in all directions like a tide. Blurg! Di Xianming could not help but spit a mouthful of blood. He retreated continuously, and there was disbelief in his eyes when he looked at Yi Chen again. The kingdom guarding Dragon Pearl that he had spent 1,000 years to refine to suppress the fortune of a country was shattered by a single punch from Yi Chen. Buzz, buzz, buzz. At that moment, Mount Tang Wu began to shake violently. Everyone was shocked to discover that the Imperial Dragon energy on Di Xianming's body was disappearing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Almost at that moment, the fortune of the entire great Yin Imperial dynasty was also dissipating crazily. This was a faint feeling, and the most direct effect was panic and depression. Countless ministers and commoners of the great Yin Imperial dynasty subconsciously prostrated themselves on the ground, looking at this scene with terrified expressions. The fortune has dissipated. The great Xia Emperor, Emperor Hua, was the most sensitive to this change. He muttered. Di Xianming used the kingdom-guarding Dragon Pearl to deal with Emperor Yi and try to kill him with the fortune of country. However, Emperor Yi shattered the Dragon Pearl and leaked the fortune of the great Een. Perhaps this is what it means to go for wool and come home shorn. The North Ocean Hall Master, Z Kunlun, said in a murderous manner, "If you like Evil Dad in the City, please collect Evil Dad in the City." Chapter 1254. As the saying went, 1's life, 2's luck, 3's feng shui, 4's merit, and 5 studies. To a sect or a country, luck was too important. Whether it was Di Xuanxiang, Zhang Juexian, or the Emperor of Great Xia, Emperor Hua, they all viewed luck as the most precious thing. The decrease in luck meant the weakening of the country's power, and the scope of the country's power was too broad. The one who was affected the most was Di Xuanxiang, the emperor of the Great Xia dynasty. As expected, Di Xuanxiang's hair was disheveled at that moment. He glared at Yi Chun with resentment and sorrow. "Yi, I swear I'm not human if I don't kill you." Even when Yi Chun killed 2 of his sons consecutively, he had never been so furious. However, the loss of luck made his heart ache like a knife was being stabbed. "Kill!" he roared, and the image behind him rose into the sky. It charged at Yi Chun like an immortal descending to the mortal world. Omnidirectional sword domain. Sword Master Great Heaven roared loudly. A sword appeared in his hand again. He slashed down, shaking everything. It was as if the sky was about to split open. Trying to do the same thing again? Yi Chun scoffed. Subsequently, he gestured with both hands to embrace the moon. A heavy mountain appeared in his palms. Although it was only the size of a palm, it was majestic and heavy. It had the power to destroy heaven and earth. It was the 5-element heavy mountain. Yi Chun took a step forward and smashed the 5-element heavy mountain in his hand at Sword Master Great Heaven. "I'll show you what respect is next." Boom! The 5-element heavy mountain expanded in the wind, eventually turning into a 300-meter-tall mountain. It made people feel like Mount Tai was pressing down on them. They felt weak and could barely stand. "What's that?" Many people staggered under the pressure of the 5-element heavy mountain's aura and fell to the ground. Their faces were filled with shock. "Is that a treasure?" Z Kunlun's eyes were like lightning as he stared at the 5-element heavy mountain. The latter gave him a sense of extreme danger at that moment. The mountain soared through the sky and rapidly enlarged. It was like an ancient demon mountain had descended to the world, and it instantly covered Sword Master Great Heaven. Buzz, the clear sky Sword Master's sword landed directly on the 5-elemental prison peak. What was unbelievable was that such a terrifying attack actually didn't cause any damage to the 5-elemental prison peak. It was as if the attack had been absorbed by the 5-elemental heavy peaks. Not good. At that moment, the clear sky Sword Master was shocked to discover that there was an incomparably terrifying, devouring power coming from the 5-elemental prison peak. His body moved uncontrollably towards the former. What made him even more terrified was that the vital energy in his body was pouring out in a frenzy. "What is this?" The clear sky Sword Master roared crazily, urging his cultivation with all his might in an attempt to break free from this shocking, devouring power. But he discovered that it was of no use. In the eyes of the crowd, it looked like the clear sky Sword Master was charging toward the 5-elemental heavy prison peak in a suicidal manner. "Fellow Taoist, Yi, stop. Let's talk this out." At that moment, the clear sky Sword Master finally panicked. His expression changed greatly as he said, "This old man is willing." Boom! Yi Chun did not give him a chance to beg for mercy at all. He drove the 5-elemental heavy prison peak down and crushed the clear sky Sword Master to death. His body was smashed beyond recognition. Even his soul was annihilated by the terrifying aftershock. The clear sky Sword Sect Master, the clear sky Sword Master, was dead. At this moment, the entire Mount Tangwu was dead silent. Everyone was in a daze, and they looked like they had seen a ghost. The clear sky Sword Master was killed just like that. The world shook, and everyone was shocked. The faces of the clear sky Sword Sect's powerhouses were filled with despair. In just a short period of time, 2 Emperor's throne powerhouses had died in Yi Chun's hands. This was completely different from what everyone had expected. In everyone's opinion, Yi Chun had no chance of winning when 3 Emperor's throne powerhouses joined forces to fight Yi Chun. However, the result was that Yi Chun killed 2 of them consecutively. How could this not shock everyone? Swordmaster Di Xuanke stopped abruptly, his expression terrifyingly ugly. Ying and Jiang Juexian, who were fighting the Patriarch of Hell and the Light Patriarch, could no longer hide the shock on their faces. Damn it, how can this brat be so powerful? Jiang Juexian almost roared. He could not accept the scene before him. For some reason, a faint chill suddenly emerged in his heart. 2 are dead. Under everyone's gaze, Yi Chun retracted the 5-element heavy prison peak and turned to look at Di Xuanke. His eyes were extremely cold. It's your turn next. Di Xuanke's expression changed instantly, and the hair on his body stood on end uncontrollably. He had planned it well. The success rate of the 5 Emperor's throne powerhouses working together to fight Yi Chun was almost 100%. Even with the addition of the Patriarch of Hell and the Light Patriarch, he was still extremely confident. After all, other than Ying and Jiang Juexian, he still had 3 people left. However, the result was unbelievable. Thinking to this point, his expression changed a few times. Then, he looked at Yi Chun with a burning gaze. Fellow Yi, how about we drop this? As long as you're willing, the great Yin Imperial dynasty will no longer be your enemy. At this point, his eyes flickered. I can also help you kill Jiang Juexian and Ying. I also know an earth-shattering secret related to the ancient desolate realm. As soon as he said that, the expression of Jiang Juexian, who was being held back by the Light Patriarch, changed drastically. Di Xuanke, you're shameless. He looked at Yi Chun on the verge of vomiting blood. Fellow Yi, kill him. I'm willing to help you. On the other hand, Ying was expressionless. Yi Chun looked at Di Xuanke quietly and said with a sharp gaze, Hand over your soul, and I'll spare your life. As soon as he said that, Di Xuanke's expression suddenly turned cold. Do you really want to fight to the death with me? Everyone watched this scene silently. Who would have thought that Yi Chun would force Di Xuanke to beg for mercy? Yi Chun's gaze turned cold. The 5-element heavy prison peak in his hand trembled, shaking the sky. It was about to leave his hand and kill everything. All right, you forced me to do this. Seeing this, a hint of determination flashed through the depths of Di Xuanke's eyes. At the next moment, he took a step forward and waved his arm. People of the Great Yin, I need your strength. Raise your right hands and lend me your infinite strength to help me kill my enemies. This voice covered the world and spread in all directions, as if it had reached the distant, unknown galaxy. At the same time, in the Hall of Immortality of the Great Yin Imperial Dynasty, all the civil and military officials knelt respectfully outside the Hall of Immortality. They watched in shock as endless providence flowed out of the Hall of Immortality. The providence is gone. An official muttered to himself, Does the heavens want to destroy the Great Yin? Where is the Emperor? Where is the Emperor? Countless people burst into tears. As officials of the Great Yin Imperial Dynasty, they naturally enjoyed the providence. Now that the providence was gone, what would happen to them? At this moment, a dignified and cold voice reverberated in everyone's mind. People of the Great Yin, I need your strength. Raise your right hands and lend me your infinite strength to help me kill my enemies. This voice was deafening, and it caused everyone to be jolted awake from their despair and bitter cries. It's the Emperor's voice. The Prime Minister of the Great Yin was excited. With that, he got up and knelt down heavily. He raised his right hand and said, Long live the Emperor! Long live the Great Yin Empire! If you like Evil Dad in the City, please collect Evil Dad in the City. Chapter 1255. Bam, bam, bam. The officials behind him knelt 3 times and raised their right hands at the same time. Their voices were thunderous. Long live the Imperial Lord! Long live the Imperial Lord! This scene did not only happen in the imperial capital of Great Yin, it happened almost at the same time in various territories of the Imperial Lord of Great Yin. As long as they were citizens of Great Yin, they could vaguely hear Di Xianbing's voice. Long live the Imperial Lord! The imperial lord shall live as long as the heavens. He shall never die. Everyone raised their right hands and cheered loudly. Their eyes were filled with endless zeal for Di Xianbing. Buzz, buzz, buzz. At that moment, rays of red light shot out of everyone's body. These rays converged into a great river that shot towards Mount Tangwu at the same time. These people immediately felt a sense of emptiness in their bodies, as if some kind of power had left their bodies. At the peak of Mount Tangwu, the sky rumbled and the weather changed. Rumble, under the astounded gazes of everyone. The red light that blotted out the sky shot over from all directions, and then all of it entered Di Xianling's body. What's that? Faith power? Such dense faith power. Di Xianbing seems to be getting stronger quickly. In an instant, the entire Tang Wu mountain was filled with exclamations that sounded like thunder. He's extracting faith power. The Emperor of Great Xia's expression changed slightly. He immediately said, forcefully absorbing faith power from the people, Di Xianbing is really crazy. Whether it was the Imperial Lord of Great Xia or the Imperial Lord of Great Yin, the ruler of a country could not only control the fate of the country, but he could also borrow the faith power of billions of people in the country for his own use at crucial moments. This was similar to the power of incense in the mortal world. Every god had believers. When countless believers gathered together, the power of faith produced was faith power. This was also why the gods would build temples and open halls to receive incense and worship from the people. Even Hall Master Baiyun could not help but shake his head. He doesn't care about the price. Looks like Di Xianbing is really crazy. Although forcefully extracting the power of faith could increase Emperor Xian's strength, the consequences were extremely tragic. This was because the so-called power of faith was actually mental energy. Some people would die on the spot due to excessive mental energy consumption. As for Di Xianbing, once he passed his prime, he would enter a period of weakness. During this period, even a mortal would be able to kill him. This is the power of Joss flames. Yi Chun, who was the closest to Di Xianku, had the clearest sense of this change. His eyes narrowed immediately. He's willing to pay a huge price to fight me with a nation's incense. Boom! As the void shook, Di Xianku's aura grew stronger at a speed visible to the naked eye. Yi, you forced me to do this. In the end, a trace of his aura seeped out as he breathed, causing this space to faintly be unable to endure it. Bang, bang, bang. With a bang, the cliff cracked and the ground sank 1,000 feet deep. Countless people could not help but prostrate themselves on the ground, and their faces were filled with shock. The Hall Master and the others unleashed their monarch auras at full power in an attempt to resist the pressure. However, they still took several steps back. So powerful. The Great Xia Emperor sucked in a breath of cold air. Di Xianke has absorbed the power of faith of the Great Yin. His current battle prowess is probably close to the divine treasure stage, right? Even if it's not enough, it's not far from it. The Hall Master resisted the pressure with all his might. His expression was extremely solemn. In the ancient desolate realm, above the Emperor's throne was the divine treasure. The so-called divine treasure was to hide one's soul in more than 30,000 acupuncture points in the body. Unless the body was completely destroyed to the point where not even ashes were left, one would be indestructible. At the same time, the Patriarch of Hell, Ying, the Light Patriarch, and Jiang Juexian stopped fighting at the same time and fixed their eyes on Di Xianku. They knew very well that the real battle was between Di Xianku and Yi Chun. Once the outcome of the battle was decided, it would affect their battle. Ha ha ha! At that moment, Di Xianku's entire body was wrapped in dazzling golden light, as if a supreme god had descended into the world. Yi, go to hell! In the blink of an eye, he took a step forward and waved his hand to pierce through the void. He charged at Yi Chun with a mighty pressure and killing intent. Emperor Yi is in danger now, the Great Xia Emperor said bluntly. Looks like Emperor Yi won't be able to escape death after all. Not only did he step into the Emperor's throne at such a young age, his battle prowess even surpasses those at the same level. What a pity! Everyone held their breaths and stared at Yi Chun. Their hearts could not help but hang in their throats. In the crowd below, In Woohin, who had been paying attention to this scene, could not help but sneer. Yi is dead this time. Nonsense. Mo Hongxiu, who was beside him, glared at him angrily. How could senior brother Yi die? He will definitely win. Junior sister. Mo Rong and the rest hurriedly pulled her back. The situation is already very obvious. Don't lie to yourself. Under everyone's gaze, Yichen lifted his eyes and looked at Di Xianko quietly, who was charging at him with a murderous aura. His gaze was clear. You're just a piece of trash who borrowed the power of the human world. I no longer belong to the human world. I'm above heaven and earth. How can a mere power of the human world kill me? He took a step forward. If you want to kill me with the power of the human world, I'll let you experience this vast power of heaven and earth. After saying that, he bent his finger and grabbed at the void, lightning. As soon as the word "come" was said, the law followed. Rumble. In an instant, the weather changed and the world shook. A sea of clouds enveloped the entire Mount Tangwu, containing an aura that could destroy heaven and earth. Before everyone could react, Yichun stomped his feet again. Earth, come. Rumble. Mount Tangwu, which stretched for tens of thousands of kilometers, suddenly shook, as if an earth dragon had turned over. Everyone felt the ground beneath their feet shake nonstop, and their faces turned ashen. They thought that it was an earthquake. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Under everyone's shocked gazes, surging earth vein energy turned into yellow balls of light from all directions of the entire Mount Tangwu and surged toward Yichun. Then, they condensed into the shadow of a yellow mountain. What technique is this? Everyone turned pale with fright. Water, come. Yichun spat softly. At that moment, everyone lifted their heads to look. They saw countless rivers defying gravity and hanging majestically above Mount Tangwu. The scene was like a heavenly river pouring down. Fire, come. Wind, come. In my name, I command wind, fire, thunder, lightning, and rain. Yichun chanted like a deity. In an instant, the heavenly thunder bombarded down mightily. The yellow shadow condensed into a mountain and poured down in torrents. The torrential river broke its dam and collapsed. At that moment, the world fell silent. In everyone's eyes, there was only that figure who was like a true immortal who had descended to the world, commanding the rules of heaven and earth like a servant. If you like Evil Dad in the City, please collect Evil Dad in the City. Chapter 12:56. Under the gazes of countless people, the terrifying power of heaven and earth enveloped Di Xianming. The entire world rumbled after an unknown period of time. After this series of might completely dissipated, everyone finally recovered. They looked around in shock. Who won? This was the question that everyone was most concerned about. My father must have won. In Woohin, who had regained his senses, was the first to laugh out loud. My father has absorbed the power of faith. His battle prowess is comparable to a divine treasure. How can he not die? As he spoke, he repeatedly looked at the void. Then his tone suddenly froze, and the smile on his face froze. His eyes revealed deep fear. There was a thin figure with his hand behind his back, standing proudly in the air. That figure's body flickered with divine light, like a god. It was Yichun. At that moment, the entire world fell silent. There was dead silence, as everyone looked at Yichun with admiration. Di Xianming is dead? Jiang Juexian activated his ocular technique, and his black eyes shot into the sky in an attempt to find traces of Di Xianming. However, the result terrified him. Under his ocular technique, not only was there no trace of Di Xianming, but even his aura was gone. It was as if he had disappeared from the world. Home Master Bei Yun, the great Xia Emperor, and the rest also tried their best to search, but they did not find anything. At this moment, they finally believed that Di Xianming was dead, and he had died in Yi Chen's hands. Everyone's eyes landed on Yi Chen at the same time as they thought to this point. There was shock and disbelief in their eyes, but most of it was respect. How is this possible? How is this possible? In Woohin seemed to have lost his mind as he roared. Yi, how could you kill my father? Yi Chun turned his head to look when he heard that. A golden gleam flashed through his eyes. The golden gleam tore through the sky, and it cut the former's body and soul into two like blade chi. Well done, Brother Yi. Shi Qianhan heaved a sigh of relief. His eyes were filled with admiration as he looked at Yi Chun. Mo Hongxiu, who was in the crowd below, was so excited that she almost danced with joy. Senior Brother Yi won. Senior Brother Yi won. Beside him, Mo Rong and the other two could not speak for a long time. Only great waves of shock flashed in their eyes. Jiao smiled sweetly. I knew son-in-law would win. Congratulations, Imperial Lord Yi. The Emperor of Great Xia, Emperor Hua, was the first to stand out. He clasped his fists at Yi Chun. After this battle, Emperor Yi will be worshipped by the heroes of the world. Congratulations, Imperial Lord Yi. The North Sea Hall Master also stepped forward. Plop, thump, thump. In an instant, a series of loud noises resounded throughout the world. Then the hundreds of thousands of people present all knelt down on one knee. We congratulate Emperor Lord Yi. A thunderous voice shook the clouds. At this moment, no one dared to mention Emperor Xianke's name, because the winner was king and the loser was a bandit. This was the cruelest rule of the cultivation world. Jiang Juexian was all smiles. Congratulations, Darchi. From now on, Darchi will be the #1 in the ancient barren world. Jiang, you really know how to change your face. Yi Chun stared at him coldly. The killing intent in him did not decrease as he walked toward the former step by step. Jiang Juexian's expression changed slightly, and then he said, Emperor Yi, where it is possible to forgive and forget, one should forgive and forget. You and I are not enemies of life and death, and I have never attacked you from the beginning. I've always heard that the great Qi sovereign lord is shameless. Now that I've seen him today, he truly lives up to his reputation. The Radiant's ancestor sipped his wine and smiled faintly. Yi Chun looked at him coldly and scoffed softly. His divine consciousness surged. Hand over your astral body, and I'll spare your life. You want me to hand over my divine soul? Impossible. Jiang Juexian smirked. I admit that I'm no match for you, but you can't stop me if I want to escape. As soon as he finished speaking, he flicked his sleeve and actually forcefully tore space apart as he left. Trying to escape? Yi Chun narrowed his eyes and was about to capture him. The Patriarch of Hell chased after him directly. Fellow Yi, leave this guy to me. If one took a closer look, the Patriarch of Hell's speed was actually 30% faster than the former. At that moment, Ing was the only one left. Yi Chun walked over slowly and looked at him expressionlessly. Ing, how are we going to settle the score between us? Do it. Ying's expression was calm, as if he was neither happy nor sad as he said, The last time you fought me, you were lucky to defeat me. This time, I'd like to experience it for you. Yi Chun looked at him quietly. A few seconds later, he said slowly, Leave. For the sake of the past, I'll let you go this time. He did not want to fight Ing. Firstly, both of them were from Earth, and they were Chinese. Secondly, Ing knew about the existence of the Forbidden Sea, so Yi Chun planned to keep him alive. Ing did not say a word. A pair of purple gold bone wings flapped behind him, and he shot out 3,000 meters horizontally. Not long after, the Patriarch of Hell tore through space and arrived. He was slightly injured, but he was holding a head in his hand. It was Jiang Juexian's. In year 36,500 of the Primordial Era, Yi Chun fought 5 emperors' throne stage powerhouses on Mount Tangwu. He killed 3 of the emperor's throne stage powerhouses of the Great Yin's Emperor Lord. One of the remaining 2 died, and the other escaped. The news shook the Primordial Era. In the quiet room of the Jade Lake Holy Land. After Yi Chun returned with Zhou and the rest, he asked the Patriarch to take care of the Light Patriarch and the rest while he entered the quiet room directly. He slowly opened his palm, revealing a ball of lightning that contained a terrifying power. There was a faint trace of a soul within it. If outsiders saw it, they would definitely be shocked speechless because it was Di Xuanming's soul. Since you're invincible, why didn't you kill me? Why did you deliberately protect my soul? Di Xuanming's soul roared at Yi Chun hysterically. His eyes were filled with resentment. Then, he seemed to have thought of something and suddenly laughed out loud. I know. You must be trying to find the whereabouts of your wife, son, and parents, right? Since you've guessed it, tell me honestly. Yi Chun looked at him quietly. I can promise that as long as you tell me everything you know, I'll let you reincarnate. Haha, you'll die. Di Xianming laughed maniacally. The closer you get to them, the faster you'll die. 10,000 years ago, the Eastly Emperor suppressed the primordial era alone. Everyone looked up to him. He was more than 10,000 times more monstrous than you, but he still couldn't escape death. You're no exception. Stubborn. Yi Chun scoffed coldly. He opened his mouth and spat. A golden flame shot out instantly and enveloped Di Xuanming's soul. In the quiet room that was set up with a soundproof barrier, screams that sounded like the wailing of ghosts and the howling of wolves immediately rang out. Yi Chun's cold voice sounded, If you don't tell me, I'll make your soul suffer for eternity. I'll make you beg for death. He might be able to use the soul-searching tactic on people who are much lower than him, but not on an emperor's throne powerhouse like Di Xianming. An hour later, Di Xianming finally could not take it anymore and relented. I'll tell you. Chapter 12:57. Jade Lake's Sacred Land, in an isolated room. Speak. I'll keep my word. Yi Chun looked at Di Xuanming's soul in his hand with a burning gaze. He retracted the golden flame that wrapped around him. Di Xuanming's soul was extremely dispirited. He suddenly looked at him with a complicated expression. I admit that you're very powerful. Your talent is comparable to the Eastly Emperor from 10,000 years ago. However, let me give you a piece of advice. The news I revealed today might kill you. Get to the point. Yi Chun's eyes turned cold. A hint of fear flashed through Di Xuanming's eyes. Then, he said slowly, more than a year ago, that ghost ship suddenly appeared in the Tianfengxi area. After we received the order, we immediately sent a large number of powerhouses to intercept it. At this point, he seemed to recall something and said, there were 5 people on the ghost ship at that time. 2 of them were women and 1 was a man. I think they were your family. Yi Chun nodded slightly. Including Su Yuhan and his parents, there were 3 of them. Then, he frowned and said, You guys? In other words, you're not the only one involved in this matter? That's right. Di Xianming nodded and said, Other than the Great Yin Imperial Dynasty, there's also the Jade Lake Sacred Land, the Great Qi Imperial Dynasty, the Great Xia Imperial Dynasty, the North Sea Dragon Subduing Hall, the Westworld Pure Zen Sect, and so on. Yi Chun's eyes flashed. What happened after that? The powerhouses we sent fought an intense battle with the people on the ghost ship. Countless powerhouses died. Di Xianming said faintly. Most of them died in the hands of that crazy cultivator. He suspected to be at the Emperor's throne stage. In the end, Jiang Juexian and I had no choice but to suppress him ourselves. Yi Chun took a deep breath in and said impatiently, Where did you hide these people? At that moment, Di Xuanming's face was slightly distorted as if he was resisting something. We were also following orders. Your parents were taken away by Jixia Academy. Yi Chun was moved when he heard that. He enunciated word by word. Are you saying that my parents are in Jixia Academy? That's right. Di Xian said, From the beginning to the end, we were only participants. I was in charge of capturing your parents, and Jiang Juexian was in charge of capturing your wife. As for the crazy Taoist and the little girl, they were... At this point, his soul began to tremble as if he was enduring some kind of pain. No, I can't say. Yi Chun pointed a finger between his brows. Subsequently, countless black runes began to appear on Di Xuanming's soul. These runes were like dark chains, binding him tightly. Soul, restraining chains. At that moment, shock flashed through Yi Chun's eyes. Someone actually set up the soul-confining chain in your body. What a vicious method. The so-called soul-restraining chain was a method used in the cultivation world to imprison someone's soul so that they would never be able to betray their master. The strangest thing about this method was that when the person being imprisoned talked about something sensitive, it would automatically activate. I can't say, save me, The black soul chains on Di Xuanming's body tightened, as if a pair of 5 elemental hands were secretly exerting force. The former was also in more and more pain, as if his soul could be destroyed at any time. Boom! In an instant, his soul shattered with a bang, and then turned into countless pieces that scattered everywhere. His soul was destroyed. The series of unforeseen events happened in the blink of an eye. Even Yi Chun could not stop it in time. Yi Chun's expression was extremely grim. He did not even know where Su Yuhan was, and Di Xuanming's soul was destroyed just like that. Who was it? Who could leave such a vicious method in an emperor's throne powerhouse's body and make Di Xuanming unable to resist? He narrowed his eyes, and a cold gleam surged in the depths of his eyes. I don't care who you are. If Yuhan has anything to do with you, even if you're a true immortal, I'll kill you. In the Jade Lake Palace outside, Jiao was feeding Ming Ming. This time, she had brought many spirit fruits from the Divine Light Palace. Like magic, she quickly became familiar with the little girl. Patriarch Yellow Spring directly moved the palanquin to the top of Yaoqi Mountain. The surroundings were filled with laughter and chatter. The Patriarch of Light chuckled as he walked over. He took a sip of wine and said, "May I know where you're from? Why have I never seen you before?" Just when the Patriarch of Hell was about to speak, he saw Yi Chun walk out of the quiet room. He said immediately, "Fellow Yi, did you find anything?" He knew that Yi Chun had left Di Xuanming's soul behind. Therefore, even after the battle ended, he stayed by Yi Chun's side and did not return to Huang Kingdom. Yi Chun shook his head lightly and lifted his head to look at the Patriarch of Light next to him. "Fellow Light, how much do you know about Jixia Academy?" The reason why he asked that was because Di Xuanming had said before he died that his parents had been taken away by the people of Jixia Academy. Now that Di Xuanming was dead, the remaining clues were gone. Therefore, he could only focus on Jixia Academy. Hearing the words Jixia Academy, the Patriarch of Light's expression froze slightly. "Fellow Yi, listen to me. You can't touch Jixia Academy." "Why can't I?" Yi Chun's eyes flickered. "I can't say anything else." The Patriarch of Light changed his attitude and shook his head repeatedly. Then, he turned to Jiao and said, "Little girl, you've played enough. Shouldn't you come back with me?" The smile on Jiao's face froze. She looked at Yi Chun reluctantly. "Young master. Little girl, I'll go crazy with you. I hope you remember your promise to me." The Patriarch of Light forced a smile again. Yi Chun could not help but smile when he saw Jiao's hesitation. "Go back with fellow Light first. I'll visit you when I have the chance." Jiao's beautiful eyes lit up when she heard that. She looked at him pitifully and said, "Young master, it's a deal. You must visit me." "All right." Yi Chun nodded. Jiao then followed the Patriarch of Light and left the Jade Lake's sacred land unwillingly. Yi Chun's eyes flickered nonstop as he watched the two of them leave. It seemed like the Patriarch of Light knew something, but he was unwilling to mention it. "Fellow Yi, what do you plan to do next?" The Patriarch of Hell walked over quietly. Yi Chun suddenly said, "Patriarch, take charge of the Jade Lake sacred land for now. I'm going out for a while." Since they were involved in the operation to encircle the ghost ship, not only were Di Xuanming and the dead Jiang Juexian involved, but even the North Sea Dragon Subduing Hall was involved. He could go to the North Sea Dragon Subduing Hall to ask. Although the North Sea Dragon Subduing Hall did not take action during the battle at Mount Tangwu, he had a faint intention of befriending them. Perhaps he was a good breakthrough. If you like Evil Dad in the City, please collect Evil Dad in the City. Chapter 1258. As time passed, the news of the battle on Mount Tangwu gradually spread, eventually sweeping through the entire ancient desolate realm. Did you know? The battle on Mount Tangwu has ended. Who won? Is it the Emperor of the Great Yin, Emperor Xianxiang? It must be Emperor Xianxiang. He has an imperial dynasty and became famous thousands of years ago. Although Emperor Yi killed the Jade Lake Holy Lord, he's still too young. No, Emperor Yi won. At that time, Emperor Xianxiang and the other two emperors joined forces to attack Emperor Yi, but they were all killed by Emperor Yi in the end. What? This kind of conversation appeared in almost every place at the same time, on every occasion. Before this, many people did not think that Yi Chun would win the battle with Emperor Xinxiang. However, the truth was that Yi Chun had killed 3 emperors thrown powerfully. The impact was terrifying to the Central Plains. Countless people in the entire ancient desolate realm were shocked. They could not believe it. In an instant, Yi Chun's name spread throughout the entire ancient desolate realm. It was like a monstrous torrent that crashed into everything. As for the Great Yin Dynasty, the Great Qi Dynasty, and the Demon Region, the Hao Yian Sword Palace was dead silent. Half a day ago, they were still supreme sections. Even the patriarchs of ordinary sects had to be respectful when they saw them. However, with the death of the sect's tree, they were completely knocked down to the mortal world. Countless forces that had been suppressed since a long time ago attacked together. This caused the 4 supreme sects to fall into internal strife, setting off a reign of terror. Countless people died tragically at the hands of their enemies. Ancient desolate realm, extreme north. Yi Chun stood on a huge mountain and looked into the distance with his hands behind his back. In his eyes, there was a huge city with no end in sight where the mountains and rivers met. It was like an ancient beast that was hiding half of its body deep underground. Magnificent, mysterious, dignified, the huge city was extremely solemn and dark black, giving off a heavy and oppressive feeling. There was a terrifying formation around the city that protected it tightly. Endless dragon energy flowed through the veins of the earth. As expected of the North Sea dragon subduing Hall, Yi Chun nodded lightly. Then he moved and arrived outside the huge city in the blink of an eye. At that moment, several figures with terrifying auras approached from afar. "Who are you? How dare you barge into my North Sea dragon subduing Hall?" Several auras blocked Yi Chun's way. The leader was a withered old man with an old face. He faintly exuded the aura of a 9-revolution martial saint. "So it's Imperial Lord Yi." The man glanced at Yi Chun and was stunned at first. Then, he took a deep breath in and said, "May I know why Emperor Yi suddenly came to the North Sea Dragon Subduing Palace?" As soon as he said that, the expressions of the powerhouses behind him changed. There was shock in their eyes as they looked at Yi Chun. Was this monarch Yi, who had killed 3 emperors, throne realm cultivators? Yi Chun clasped his fists and smiled politely. "Everyone, please forgive me for coming so suddenly. I just want to see the North Immortal Palace Master. I mean no harm. Please inform him. Not to mention the fact that he had no feud with the North Sea Hall Lord. He couldn't just barge into the North Sea Dragon Subduing Hall because of Shi Qianan." The withered old man frowned, and a strange look flashed through his muddy eyes. "I'm sorry, Emperor Yi, you've come a bad time. The Hall Master isn't in the city right now." "Not here." Yi Chun was surprised. "May I ask where he went? When will he be back?" The withered old man shook his head expressionlessly. "The Hall Master has always been unfathomable." "How we know?" Yi Chun said again. "Where's Shi Qianan?" The withered old man said softly. "Young Master Shi has also gone out with the Hall Master." "Emperor Yi, you come at a bad time." He had no intention of inviting Yi Chun into the city for a chat. The people behind him even looked at Yi Chun warily. "Forget it. I've disturbed you." How could Yi Chun not tell that the group of people did not welcome him? He smiled lightly and turned around to leave. After he left, someone could not help but ask, "Grand Elder, didn't the Hall Master return a long time ago?" "Why? Don't ask too much." The withered old man turned around and looked at him deeply. He said thoughtfully, "This was personally instructed by the Hall Master. The ancient desolate realm is about to change. If our North Sea Dragon Subduing Hall moves, the hall will be destroyed. Southern ancient desolate realm, Great Xia Dynasty." The general guarding the city said to Yi Chun politely with cupped fists, "Emperor Yi, the emperor has gone out with the princess. They're not in the capital. Why don't you come another day?" Yi Chun turned around and left without saying a word. Southern ancient desolate realm, Great Qin Dynasty. Qin Jin looked at Yi Chun with a complicated expression. He shook his head and said, "His Majesty hasn't returned since he went to Mount Tangwu." Yi Chen's expression gradually froze. The North Sea Hall Master was not here, the Great Xia Emperor was not here, and neither was Ying. Other than Qin Jian, everyone else's words were almost the same. Was he not here or unwilling to see him? Looks like Di Xianke was right. Yi Chen's eyes flickered unnoticeably. Apart from the Great Qin dynasty, these few forces all participated in the operation to annihilate the ghost ship. Moreover, they seem to know some secret and are unwilling to see me. At this moment, a thought suddenly flashed through his mind. Could it be that the North Sea Hall Master, the Great Xia Emperor, and the others all had soul-sealing chains like Di Xianke? What exactly is it that makes so many emperors' throne powerhouses so afraid? Or rather, it could be said that they are afraid? Yi Chen's frown deepened as he thought to this point. The only thing I can do now is to make a trip to Jixia Academy. Saving my parents is the most important thing. As soon as Yi Chen returned to the Jade Lake Sacred Land, Xiaohei came up to him and said in a deep voice, "Master, someone wants to see you." "Who is it?" Yi Chen's eyes focused. Xiaohei hesitated for a moment and said, as if he was recalling something, "It's a little girl. She's the little girl we met in the Origin Tower, the storyteller and granddaughter." "It's her?" Yi Chen frowned and remembered immediately. Not long after, Xiaohei brought a 17 or 18-year-old girl with a birthmark into the hall. Xiao Man knelt heavily in front of him and begged with a pale face, "Emperor Yi, please save my master." "Your master?" Yi Chen looked at her with a burning gaze. "Is it the old storyteller who traveled with you last time?" "Yes, it's him." Xiao Man nodded repeatedly and said while still in shock, "He and Uncle Master Pan were captured by Jixia Academy." "Jixia Academy again?" Yi Chen looked at her fixedly. "Let me ask you. I followed you after you killed a disciple of the martial spirit mansion at night. Is the Emperor's throne who attacked me your master? The so-called master of the sword hut?" Xiao Man said, "Yes." There was no surprise on her face. She seemed to have guessed that Yi Chen had followed her that night. Yi Chen's eyes flashed as he said again, "Now, answer my last question. Where is my brother, Yi Wushuang? If you like Evil Dad in the City, please collect Evil Dad in the City." Chapter 1259. Brother Wushuang. Xiaoman's eyes reddened as she said hesitantly. Brother Wushuang drew his sword towards the sky and was sent into the forbidden ocean. Boom! As soon as she finished speaking, the space above the Jade Lake Sacred Land exploded. Then, an arm made of lightning slammed down from the sky. That kind of power shook heaven and earth. Bang! Yi Chen lifted his head abruptly and soared into the sky. He appeared in the air instantly. "How dare you kill me in front of me?" In an instant, a golden hammer shook the heavens and the earth as it charged towards the lightning arm. Under the intense collision, the latter collapsed into countless bolts of lightning. This string of sudden and unexpected events came and went in a hurry, and it was as if everything was like a dream. Whoosh! At that moment, a figure landed next to Yi Chen. It was the Patriarch of Hell. "Fellow Yi, who was that?" His expression was extremely solemn. Obviously, he had also noticed that something was wrong. Heavens, he is the heavens! Before Yi Chen could speak, he saw Xiao Man curled up on the ground. She stared at the air, and her face was extremely pale. Brother Wushuang was punished by heaven for drawing his sword at him. Heaven? Yi Chen scoffed. Does he deserve to be called heaven? It's just a fake heavenly Tao constructed by a powerful being. Not bad. The Yellow Spring Patriarch's eyes shot into the sky as he nodded slightly. It doesn't look like the heavenly Tao. Otherwise, fellow Taoist, you wouldn't have broken that hand so easily with that strike just now. At this point, he could not help but look at Yi Chen. "Fellow Yi, looks like this world isn't as simple as we thought. It doesn't matter if it's simple or complicated. Today, I must find out who is above the ancient barren world." Yi Chen scoffed. "It's just a fake heavenly Tao. Why should I be afraid, even if the real heavenly Tao descends?" As soon as he finished speaking, he waved his sleeve and immediately sent a spiritual energy seed into Xiaoman's body. And then he said, "You're saying that Wu Shuangtian drew his sword and was sent into the Forbidden Sea?" "Yes, Xiao Man was still in shock. My master and martial Uncle Pan have been hiding from it all these years. Yi Chun said again, why did Jixia Academy take them away? What does Jixia Academy have to do with that giant hand? Master said that Jixia Academy is the representative of heaven in the human world. It's responsible for restraining the people of the world and preventing them from being ignorant. Xiao Man bit her lip and said word by word. And the head of the academy is the inspector in charge of supervising the world. I understand. I finally understand. Countless thoughts flashed through Yi Chen's mind when he heard that. No wonder Di Xianming has the sole restraining chain in his body. No wonder a mere ghost ship can make so many peerless sects take action. No wonder the North Sea Hall Master and the Great Xia Emperor avoid the ghost ship like it's a taboo. So these people are afraid. A cold smile appeared at the corners of his mouth. I'm afraid of Jixia Academy and the so-called heaven they speak of. With that thought, he suddenly turned to look at the Patriarch of Hell. Patriarch, do you dare to come with me to this so-called Jixia Academy? The Patriarch grinned. Just do it. In year 3651 of the Primordial Era, Yi Chun led the Patriarch of Hell, the 9 Condor Luan, and the rest out of the Jade Lake Holy Land. They rushed to the most central place in the central state, Jixia Academy. At the same time, in the North Sea Dragon Subduing Hall, the purple-clothed North Sea Hall Master stood at the peak and looked in the direction of the Central Plains. A man wearing a bronze mask knelt on one knee in front of him. Hall Master, Emperor Yi is already on his way to Jixia Academy. I estimate that he will arrive in the Central Plains within 4 hours. Did he finally find out? The North Sea Hall Master's expression seemed to be lost, but also as if he was reminiscing. Back then, the Eastly Emperor defeated the number 1 person in the world, Kuyunzi. He killed his way into the darkness alone with his sword. He only wanted to break the cage for us and create a bright world. However, he ended up dead, and his followers' souls were destroyed. Even we are shackled. Hot tears welled up in his eyes. Emperor Yi, even though your talent is comparable to the Eastly Emperor, you will still follow in his footsteps. You cannot defy the heavens. With that, he bowed solemnly in the direction of Jixia Academy and cupped his fists to Emperor Yi. At the peak of the imperial city of the Great Xia dynasty, the Great Xia Emperor, Emperor Hua, stood with his hands behind his back and looked towards the east. I am already invincible in the human world. If I don't fight the heavens, who will I fight? Eastly Emperor, you were so powerful that you swept through the primordial era and made such bold words. But you were still unable to defeat the heavens. At this point, endless sorrow surged in his eyes. After tens of thousands of years, someone has walked your path again. He took a deep breath and cupped his fists towards the east. His words were sonorous and forceful. To Emperor Yi, in the far west, in the West Earth Pure Zen sect, a blind old monk pressed his palms together. Ba, to Emperor Yi. To Emperor Yi. In an instant, powerful auras appeared in the various secret orthodoxies of the ancient desolate realm. Everyone faced the east and bowed to pay their respects. 4 hours later, in the central region of the Central Plains, the 9 eagle phoenix, which had transformed into its true form, flapped its wings and carried Yi Chun and the rest for thousands of kilometers. It looked at the ground where the mountains and rivers intersected and said, Master, remember to treat us with respect when we arrive at the academy later. We're going to get someone not to go on a pilgrimage. Why should we care about etiquette? It's just a place where poor scholars gather. The Patriarch of Hell could not help but grab a handful of its feathers and mock. Feathered beast, have you been guarding the door for too long that your kneecaps have gone soft? The 9 eagle phoenix did not dare to make a sound now. Over the past few days, it had seen that the Patriarch of Hell was much crueler than Yi Chun. Father, mother, I'm here to pick you up. Yi Chun stood in the clouds and looked down at the great rivers below. He seemed to be talking to himself, and his voice contained complicated emotions. An hour later, the 9 eagle phoenix gradually landed. What greeted everyone's eyes was an ancient road paved with blue stones. The ancient road led to the mountains. At the end of the road stood a piece of red bricks and green tiles. It was like a mirage hidden in the sea. It was surrounded by a righteous aura, making people want to worship it from the bottom of their hearts. Let's go. Yi-chan carried his daughter and took a step forward. He stepped onto the bluestone path. The longing for his family grew stronger. Along the way, there were old apes hanging upside down from cliffs. They held scriptures in their hands and spoke in human language. There were foxes that transformed into humans and used seduction techniques to seduce the scholars on the way. Those who could not resist the temptation were instantly sucked dry of their yang energy. After walking out of the mountain gate, Yi-chan lifted his eyes and looked at the holy land in the hearts of all scholars in the ancient desolate realm. Yi-chan suddenly sank his dantian and shouted, "I'm Yi-chan. I'm here to visit Ji-Xiao Academy." The flawless chapter of The Genius Nanny in the City will continue to be updated on the mobile game bar. There are no advertisements on the website, so please bookmark and recommend the mobile game bar. If you like Evil Dad in the City, please collect Evil Dad in the City. Chapter 1260. I'm Yi-chan. I'm here to visit Ji-Xiao Academy. In the green mountains and clear waters, Yi-chan's voice was like a giant copper striking a bell. It was vast and deafening. When the last word was spoken, the originally tranquil paradise-like land was suddenly broken. Birds and beasts scattered, and even the fish that emerged from the water took the opportunity to dive into the water. Then, the entire Ji-Xiao Academy was shaken. Yi-chan, the fiend who killed the Jade Lake Holy Master and killed Di Xianming and the other two peerless giants, was here. He had come to Ji-Xiao Academy. Yi-chan was naturally the most famous person in the entire ancient desolate realm recently. Creak. The simple wooden door in front of everyone was gently opened, and a group of people rushed out. Most of them were young men and women in robes. In an instant, the entire Ji-Xiao Academy was filled with people. All of them looked at Yi-chan and the rest. There was shock, respect, sneer, and hostility. He's the infamous Yi-chan? He's nothing much. I thought he had 3 heads and 6 arms and could swallow the sea and the moon. Someone looked at Yi-chan coldly. Apart from sneering, his eyes were filled with hostility. He looks elegant and extraordinary. He doesn't look like a heinous person at all. Instead, he looks like a modest gentleman. Some of the Academy's ladies looked at him with admiration. Yi-chan ignored everyone's gazes and continued walking into the mountain gate with his daughter in his arms. Stop. At that moment, a young man in a green robe took a step forward and stopped Yi-chan in an unfriendly manner. This is Ji-Xiao Academy. Outsiders are not allowed to enter. Yi-chan looked at him quietly. Who are you? I'm Ji-hung, a third-generation disciple of the Academy's Confucian Academy. The green-robed young man looked at him arrogantly and said arrogantly, Yi, I know you're lawless in the outside world, but this is Ji-Xiao Academy. How dare you be so rude? Yi-chan said, get your adults to come out and talk to me. You think you're worthy? Ji-hung could not help but sneer. Bang! Before he could finish, a large hand suddenly reached out from behind Yi-chan and lifted him up. Little brat, who are you talking to? The Yellow Spring Patriarch stared at him and grinned. You claim to be a scholar in Ji-Xiao Academy, but are all scholars as arrogant and disrespectful as you? Ji-hung's face turned red as he was lifted into the air. Many young men and women surrounded them when they saw that. They glared at Yi-chan and the rest. Let go of senior brother Ji. Everyone stop. At this moment, a powerful voice suddenly came from behind the crowd. Then, a scholar in gray walked over slowly and steadily. Martial Uncle One. Greetings, Martial Uncle One. Seeing the person who came, the crowd that was filled with righteous indignation immediately made way and retreated to the side. The middle-aged scholar glanced at Ji-hung, who was lifted into the air by the Patriarch of Hell first. Then, he fixed his gaze on Yi-chan. Emperor Lord Yi, you once said that you came to pay a visit to my Ji-Xiao Academy, but now you're attacking a disciple of my academy. Isn't that a little disrespectful? His tone was slightly cold. Yi-chan's expression did not change when he heard that. He said, Who are you? The middle-aged scholar said proudly, I'm Han. My name is extraordinary, and I'm an elder of the Confucian Academy's Discipline Hall. Let him go. Yi Chun turned around and glanced at the Yellow Spring Patriarch. After the latter let go of Ji Hung, he looked at Wen Han and said, Elder Wen, are you trying to stop me from entering the sect too? Elder Wen said expressionlessly, Emperor Lord Yi, our academy has a rule. Under normal circumstances, outsiders are not allowed to enter the academy. Yi Chun squinted. There was a hint of displeasure in his eyes. Are you forcing me to barge in? The eyes of the Patriarch of Hell and Xiao He instantly revealed ferocious glints. Elder Wen's expression changed slightly as he said, However, there are naturally exceptions for people like Emperor Lord Yi. If you want to enter our academy, you still have to complete 3 conditions. Tell me about it, Yi Chun said. First, Elder Wen smiled lightly. Our academy is filled with scholars. We don't like martial artists. Therefore, if Emperor Yi wants to enter, you have to cripple your own cultivation base, including the people behind you. Xiao He was furious when he said that. Old thing, what did you say? Yi Chun stopped him and said, without changing his expression, Continue. Seeing that Yi Chun did not have much of a reaction, Elder Wen seemed to have gained confidence. He said again, Second, Emperor Yi needs to choose one of the 5th-generation disciples of our academy to engage in a literary battle. Only those who win will be qualified. Yi Chun said calmly, Literary battle? That's right, literary battle. Elder Wen said in disdain. You can choose any one of the 5th-generation disciples of our academy to compete in poetry or painting. As soon as he said that, the surrounding Jixia Academy could not help but laugh out loud. They looked at Yi Chun with gloating eyes, but most of them were filled with disdain. In the entire ancient barren world, no one could compare to Jixia Academy in terms of poetry and songs. Yi Chun remained silent. Elder Wen glanced at him proudly. Third, after completing the first 2, Emperor Yi still has to kneel 3 times and kowtow 9 times on the stone steps to enter the sect. 3 kneels and 9 kowtows. The Yellow Spring Patriarch laughed out of extreme anger. Of course, Elder Wen was completely unaware. Our academy teaches the world with poetry and books. We respect ancient etiquette and pay attention to the difference in status. If you want to enter, you naturally have to pay your respects to the saint. Fellow Yi, do it. Why waste your breath with these poor scholars? The Yellow Spring Patriarch suddenly looked at Yi Chun. His eyes shone brightly. Yi Chun crippled his own cultivation base and challenged them to a literary battle. It was obvious that he was deliberately making things difficult for them. How dare you? Elder Wen's complexion suddenly changed. Those who block me today will die. Yi Chun's gaze was cold. He took a step forward as a divine gleam flashed through his eyes. The pressure on his body was like a mountain pressing down. Plop, plop, plop. At that moment, many Jixia Academy disciples could not withstand the pressure and fell to the ground. Their faces were filled with shock. Even Elder Wen spat blood. He was pressed to the ground as if he was prostrating himself before Yi Chun. How dare you? How dare you act violently in my academy? Almost at that moment, a few figures shot out of the self-study palace and headed straight for Yi Chun as if they wanted to stop him. Some held scriptures and stirred up wind and lightning. Some picked up a brush and drew, causing the weather to change. Some played the zither and penetrated the void. I don't want to kill, but why are you forcing me? Yi Chun turned his head around abruptly. His eyes were cold as monstrous killing intent surged out, causing space to freeze. Blurg, 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 the powerhouses from the academy spat blood and were sent flying by his aura. They seemed to have been severely injured. If you like Evil Dad in the City, please collect Evil Dad in the City. Chapter 1261. Quickly inform the mountain masters and deans. This brat wants to barge into our academy. We must kill him here. Some powerhouses roared. Call him. The Patriarch of Hell wished for the world to be in chaos. He shouted, It's best if you call all the powerhouses in your academy. We'll kill them all. Right at this moment, an anxious voice came from afar. Don't be rash. Under everyone's gaze, a weak-looking donkey could be seen stomping its hooves over from within the education palace. A white-clothed, middle-aged scholar sat on the donkey. The latter's expression was emotionless, and the moment he appeared, countless people in the academy revealed looks of respect. It was Grand Tutor Ning, who had parted ways with Yi Chen not long ago. Tong tong, tong tong. Mengming's eyes lit up when she saw the donkey in Yi Chen's embrace. She kept waving at the donkey. Greetings, Mountain Master Ning. Everyone, including Elder One, bowed to Grand Tutor Ning in unison. Mountain Master Ning, you came at the right time. A powerhouse shouted. This brat wants to barge into our Jixia Academy. Please inform the other mountain masters and deans to suppress him. All of you step down. Grand Tutor Ning's expression was calm. He waved his sleeve gently and looked at Yi Chun. Fellow Yi, it's been a month since we last met. You've really surprised me. Greetings, fellow Ning. Yi Chun retracted his killing intent and cupped his fists. He had a good impression of Grand Tutor Ning. The latter had helped him in the Dali dynasty before, and he was also related to Qian Qian and the rest. I already know why you're here, fellow Yi. Grand Tutor Ning nodded slightly and raised his eyes to size up the Patriarch of Hell and the rest behind him. He said, I can bring you in, but I'll only allow you to be alone. Master, Xiaohei wanted to say something but hesitated. Yi Chan interrupted him and looked at Grand Tutor Ning. Sure, I'll listen to Grand Tutor Ning. After saying that, he turned around and said to the Patriarch of Hell and the rest, Patriarch, wait for me here for now. Without my permission, don't act recklessly. Don't worry. Patriarch Yellow Spring's eyes glinted. If you encounter any unforeseen events inside, just let me know, and I'll immediately charge in with my men. As he said this, his eyes occasionally wandered between Elder One and the other people of the academy. Countless people glared at him. Let's go. Yi Chun carried his daughter and followed behind Grand Tutor Ning. Nobody dared to stop him. Clearly, Grand Tutor Ning had a high position in the academy. After the two of them entered the mountain gate, numerous simple and unadorned pavilions entered their eyes. The heavens and the earth were filled with boundless righteous energy, and it seemed to cause one to be unable to help but feel reverence from the bottom of their hearts. Yi Chan said as he walked, Fellow Ning, do you know why I'm here? Of course. Grand Tutor Ning's gaze was calm. After I returned to the academy, I learned that the academy had taken in a middle-aged couple. A middle-aged couple? Yi Chen's heart skipped a beat upon hearing that. The moment I saw that middle-aged couple, I thought of you, fellow Yi. Subsequently, Grand Tutor Ning looked at him and said, Alike, the three of you are too alike. Yi Chun suppressed the excitement inside of him and said, Fellow Ning, I wonder how my parents are now. Good, very good. Grand Tutor Ning smiled faintly and said, Your parents received preferential treatment in my academy. When they had nothing to do, they also comprehended the Saint's Tao. Now, they have a Confucian cultivation base. The boulder that had been hanging in Yi Chen's heart for a long time finally dropped. He could not help but ask again, Before my mother was separated from me, she was already pregnant. I wonder if she's now. That's your brother. Grand Tutor Ning suddenly stopped and looked at him quietly. A year ago, your mother gave birth to a brother named Yi Xing for you. The Chancellor personally gave him the Xianyuan name. Yi Xing, Xianyuan? Yi Chen mumbled to himself. Yi Xing, Yi Chun, Xingchen, that's right. Grand Tutor Ning nodded slightly and said, Your brother's innate talent is very good. When he was born, he had the 8-armed god avatar on his back. He could walk on his own when he was only half a year old. When he was a year old, he could pull a weeping willow. At this point, he could not help but smile and say, Therefore, the older generation of the academy laughed and said that your brother isn't a scholar. Instead, he's a natural martial Tao genius. That's why he's called the Little Martial Saint. Is my brother really that outstanding? Yi Chen could not help but smile. Perhaps it had something to do with the fact that he had secretly used medicinal pills to train his mother's body, causing his brother's innate talent to be outstanding. At this moment, the group arrived at the valley. There was a small bridge, flowing water, and smoke curled up from chimneys. There were strange flowers and plants everywhere, as if they were in a paradise on earth. In the valley, there was a relatively simple courtyard. There was a vegetable field in the courtyard, and many vegetables were planted there. Grand Tutor Ning stopped and said, "Go in. This is where your parents live." Yi Chen's eyes moved, and his heart could not help but race. He took a deep breath in and walked slowly into the valley. He had been separated from his parents for more than a year. Now that he was about to reunite, his feelings were self-evident. Grand Tutor Ning's calm eyes suddenly became a little wet as he watched Yi Chen walk into the valley. "Fellow Yi, I'm sorry." Almost at the same time, a dozen old figures appeared in front of him like ghosts. The white-clothed old man in the lead had white hair and a ruddy face. His gaze was cold as he said, "Mountain Master Ning, your mission is over. Leave the rest to us." "Dynamo." Grand Tutor Ning stared at him. "Fellow Yi is only here to look for his parents. He's not an enemy of our academy. Don't push him too far. Otherwise, even if I have to risk my life, I won't let you off." "Of course." The gray-haired old man snorted coldly. "We have no other choice. This kid is lawless and has a terrifying cultivation. If we don't restrain him, what will we do if he wantonly slaughters in our academy?" With that, he led the dozen or so people toward the valley. Grand Tutor Ning sighed faintly. "Fellow Yi, you shouldn't have come to Jixia Academy." In the quiet courtyard, the fragrance of grass filled the air. Yi Chen stepped into the courtyard and scanned his surroundings. Eventually, his gaze landed on the vegetable field. At that moment, there were many vegetables such as cabbage, coriander, and some taro. "It's taro." A smile gradually blossomed on Yi Chen's face. "Looks like Mother planted it specially. She knows that I like to eat taro roasted chicken." His gaze wandered around, taking in every blade of grass and tree here. Then his gaze fixed on the simple courtyard in front of him. "Father and Mother should be inside, right? And my 1-year-old brother." His heart skipped a beat. He did not dare to extend his divine consciousness and to investigate. Instead, he took a deep breath in and walked in. If you like Evil Dad in the City, please collect Evil Dad in the City. Chapter 1262. The space in the room was not big, and the facilities were very simple. There were wooden tables, wooden chairs, wooden cabinets, and so on. There were many pieces of furniture on the wooden shelves. There were even many yellowed ancient books on a single wooden shelf. Yi Chen could not help but brush his hand across the items one by one as he thought about his parents' daily lifestyle. At that moment, he suddenly stopped in his tracks and lifted his head to look at the painting in the middle of the wall in the room. It was a painting that was drawn with a brush. The person in the painting was a young man with short hair. His facial features were bright, and his eyes were deep, as if he could see through people's hearts. Although his face was old-fashioned, the corner of his mouth was slightly pursed, as if he was smiling. It was a very subtle smile. "This is my portrait." Yi Chen's body trembled slightly. The portrait was exactly the same as him. Even the eyes were exactly the same. If it was not someone who had been with him for a long time, it would be impossible for the portrait to be so lifelike. Did father and mother draw this? Yi Chen's heart was slightly moved. He extended his hand in an attempt to take the painting down, but he realized that there were 3 more paintings under his portrait. The second painting was of a lady. The lady had a beautiful face and gentle eyes. There was a hint of nobility in her, but she gave off a sense of intimacy. "It's you, Han." Yi Chen's heart skipped a beat. He took the painting down again and stared blankly at the person in the painting. The second painting was of a little girl with 2 ponytails on her head and a floral dress. The little girl seemed to be making a face. Yi Chen could not help but laugh at her mischievous look. "It's Ming Ming." Yi Chen pursed his lips slightly, and a faint smile appeared on his face. He then extended his hand and took it down, revealing the last painting. It was a little boy around 1 year old. He was wearing an ancient costume, and his skin was as fair as jade. His eyes were as handsome as a devil, and he looked like he was out of this world. Most importantly, the boy's facial features were 40 to 50% similar to Yi Chen's. The only difference was his aura. "It's my brother." Yi Chen stretched his arm out and stroked the little guy in the painting. He mumbled softly, "This brat looks more like Dad, especially the shape of his lips." He slowly and carefully put away the 4 paintings, then once again walked around the room. Eventually, he arrived at the bookshelf. Apart from the 4 books and 5 classics, a stack of dusty letters caught Yi Chen's attention. He extended his arm and took it down gently. He blew away the dust on it and realized that there were letters. It's Mother's handwriting. Yi Chen's eyes lit up. He opened the first letter slowly and realized that it looked like a diary. This is the first day that old Yi and I have arrived at the academy. The academy is huge, and there are many people. Their clothes are strange, and there is a language barrier. Old Yi and I have to spend half a day thinking about what to say. I don't like this place. I want to go home to see Xiao Chun and Ming Ming. I don't know where Yuhan is. I don't know where she is. I don't don. Yuhan. After 10 months of pregnancy, old Yi and I've had our second child. Unfortunately, he wasn't born in the hospital, but in this strange place, Yuhan, Xiao Chun, Yuhan, and on. This brat is too mischievous. He's much more mischievous than his brother when he was young. When he was young, he was either fishing in the river or climbing trees to steal birds' nests. In the end, this brat uprooted the entire willow tree because he thought that the crows on the willow tree outside were too noisy. Yuhan should have given birth to, right? She seems to have a boy in her stomach. I wonder how happy Xiao Chen would be if he found out. Tears rolled down the corner of Yi Chen's eyes as he read. Eventually, they dripped onto the rice paper in his hand, making the words blurry. He was a cold person and never revealed his emotions. However, he could not suppress his sorrow at this moment. Through the words his mother left behind, he could imagine how much pressure his parents had endured after coming to the ancient desolate realm. Loneliness, yearning, fear. At that moment, the entire courtyard he was in suddenly shook violently a few times. Then, waves of terrifying energy began to fluctuate in the world. Yi Chen's eyes turned cold, and he disappeared from where he was instantly. When he appeared in the courtyard, he saw that a powerful formation had been set up in the quiet courtyard. It was like a gigantic eggshell light screen that enveloped the entire courtyard. Outside the formation stood more than 10 old figures. Although they did not have the aura of a martial Tao cultivator, they faintly merged with heaven and earth. What are you guys trying to do? Yi Chun squinted. Are you trying to trap me? Where's Ning Haoran? Get him to come out and see me. You still want to see Mountain Master Ning when you're about to die? The white-haired old man in the lead smirked coldly with a malicious gaze. Yi, it's fine that you've stirred up trouble outside and killed many people. You've even disregarded the Academy's rules. Today, we'll suppress you here. You guys want to suppress me? Yi Chen's eyes turned cold. I only want to see my parents this time. I don't want to start a massacre, but why are you guys forcing me? So what if I force you? The white-haired old man smirked in disdain and said coldly, You've been trapped by us with the 3 talents 6 harmonies formation. This formation has once trapped and killed an emperor's throne. Don't even think about getting out in this lifetime. Where are my parents? Where's my brother? Yi Chen's eyes gradually turned red. I'll give you guys one last chance. Get them to come out and see me. Don't even think about seeing them for the rest of your life. For some reason, the white-haired old man suddenly panicked when he met Yi Chen's gaze. Then, he said to the dozen people behind him, Stay here and watch him. I'll get the mountain and river cauldron and kill him. Just as he turned around, he suddenly heard a monstrous tremor coming from behind him. It was as if the sky was about to collapse. I just want to reunite with my family. I've never planned to be your enemy. This is just a normal person's feelings. Why are you guys forcing me? Why? A voice that sounded like a god's roar was heard. The white-haired old man turned around immediately and saw that Yi Chen's form had changed drastically at that moment. His body expanded, and his clothes turned into golden battle armor. His white hair started turning red at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was as red as blood. His eyes were like 2 rivers of blood, and they were suffused with monstrous killing intent and boundless viciousness. Quick, stabilize the formation. This sudden scene caused the white-haired old man's expression to change drastically. He immediately cried out in alarm. Don't let him break out of the formation. Boom! The dozen or so people behind him erupted with righteous energy and they worked together to activate the origin energy of heaven and earth to support the formation. You guys want to trap me? Yi Chen's clothes were fluttering. He let out a long roar and extended his hand. It turned into a giant hand that could hold up the sky. It collided with the formation's light barrier like a five-fingered mountain. Break. If you like Evil Dad in the City, please collect Evil Dad in the City. Chapter 1263. Hold on, you must hold on. The old man's expression changed drastically when he saw the mountain-like hand, and he shouted repeatedly, "Rumble!" as the big hand slammed heavily on the light curtain of the formation. The light curtain that seemed indestructible in their eyes shattered with a loud bang, as if it was crushing dry weeds and rotten wood. Blurg! In that instant, the dozen or so experts of the Academy suffered a backlash. All of them vomited a mouthful of blood, and their bodies were sent flying. The white-haired old man's face was filled with shock. His figure flashed as he tried to escape. However, at that moment, a godlike figure descended before him. A pair of blood-red eyes locked onto him. "Why you?" The old man looked at Yi Chen in fear. He was so shocked that his guts were about to explode. Yi Chen stretched his hand out slowly and pierced through his chest directly, shattering his body and soul. "I'm benevolent, but you guys forced me to slaughter all living beings. Why are you forcing me? Why?" Yi Chen turned around slowly. His crimson eyes locked onto the dozen or so Academy powerhouses who were severely injured. "He's possessed. This brat has been possessed. He killed Elder Pang of the Tao Academy. His crime is unforgivable. Quickly go and invite the various mountain masters and deans. We must kill him." When the dozen or so people met his gaze, it was as if their souls had fallen into an endless hell. Someone ran away quickly, wanting to get help. Yi Chen stretched out his hand and crushed the person to death directly. Some people joined forces and charged at Yi Chen fearlessly. Yi Chen clenched his fist across the air and killed them along with a few people. Their souls were destroyed. In an instant, more than 10 martial saint elders of the Academy were either dead or injured. Only one person was still alive when he saw Yi Chen walking over. That person knelt heavily on the ground in fear. "You can't kill me. I'm an elder of the Academy's Yin-Yang courtyard. Take me to my parents." Yi Chen picked it up in his hand. He then turned around and left with killing intent that filled the sky. He was like a devil walking in the world. That person's expression changed slightly, and then a determined look flashed across his face. He seemed to want to bite his tongue and commit suicide. "Oomph." Yi Chen scoffed and shattered his teeth directly. Then he tore his arm off. As blood splattered everywhere, the man screamed, "Spare! Spare me! Your parents have long been moved to the back mountain of the Academy. I'm just an elder. I don't have the authority to enter the back mountain." Yi Chen tore another arm off. "Bring me there." All right, stop torturing me." That person was in so much pain that his entire face had deformed. He was a scholar and cultivated in the literary path. His physical body wasn't as strong as a warrior's, so how could he endure such pain? "Go straight ahead, then turn left." Yi Chen looked at the direction he was pointing at. He picked him up with one hand and charged. At the same time, he frantically spread out his divine sense, trying to find any trace of his parents. "Dad, Mom, I'm here. Where are you?" As he walked, he asked the person in his hand, "How much further?" Soon. Both of that person's arms were broken, and they were bleeding nonstop. Even his words were leaking, and scarlet blood flowed from his mouth. As he walked with great fanfare, it immediately alarmed the Academy. In an instant, countless figures rushed toward him. There were even peerless, ferocious birds that sealed the void. All sorts of killing formations soared into the sky, as if they wanted to kill Yi Chen completely. In just a few breaths of time, Yi Chen followed the guidance of the person in his hand and arrived at a dead end. A towering mountain blocked his way. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At the same time, several figures with powerful auras chased after him. Two of them actually emitted the dignity of an emperor's throne powerhouse. "Be Astra-starred. Where are you going? How dare you kill in our academy? We must kill this brat. Let go of Elder Su. cripple your cultivation base, and kneel down to surrender. We might leave your corpse intact. Yichen lowered his head and looked at the person in his hand. A cold gleam flashed through his eyes as he was extremely furious. You lied to me. You brought me here to stall for time. Quickly cripple your cultivation base and kowtow to surrender. The man laughed maniacally and said vaguely, "There's no way forward, and there are pursuers behind. You won't be able to escape even if you fly into the sky or dive into the ground." The Yi couple was a special existence in the academy. How could an ordinary elder like him bring Yi Chun there? Otherwise, only death would await him. Therefore, he could only deceive Yi Chun and bring him to this dead end. At the same time, he bought time for the reinforcements of the academy's powerhouses. "You really deserve to die." Yi Chun roared and smashed him heavily into the mountain behind him. The person was smashed into a pile of meat paste on the spot. At the same time, at the academy gate, Xiaohei looked at the patriarch of hell, Xiaoman, and the other two beside him, and said worriedly, "Master has been gone for so long, but there's still no movement. Could something have happened?" "Don't worry." The patriarch of hell raised his brows and said nonchalantly, "With fellow Ye's methods, even if this lousy academy has any schemes, they won't be able to do anything to you." Right at this moment, a roar filled with monstrous rage resounded from the academy. "I'm benevolent, but you're forcing me to slaughter all living beings. Why are you forcing me? Why?" The voice shook heaven and earth, piercing through the past and present. He has been suppressed. Elder One and the rest, who were guarding the mountain gate, were overjoyed when they heard that. "This is great. Let's see how that brat resists. Damn it, they really don't have good intentions." Hearing this familiar voice, a monstrous, murderous aura erupted from the depths of Xiaohei's eyes. Roar! With a furious roar, his body suddenly transformed into a black dragon's true form. Then he swayed his enormous body and directly clawed at Elder One and the rest. "Go to hell." The expressions of Elder One and the rest changed abruptly, and then they roared unwillingly, "No!" Rumble! Xiaohei's claw slammed down, and the ground cracked. Elder One and the rest were instantly annihilated by that terrifying might. Fellow Yi is sending us a signal. Instead of being shocked, the Patriarch of Hell was elated. He rubbed his palms together and said, "Today, we'll flatten this lousy academy that's full of benevolence and morality." After saying that, he took the lead and charged forward, roaring with all his might, "I'm the Patriarch of Hell. Die, you bastards of Jixia Academy." Almost at that moment, at the academy's back mountain, in a valley that looked like a paradise on earth, a middle-aged woman in her 30s or 40s sat cross-legged, seemingly breathing in the spiritual energy in the mountains. Her entire body was wrapped in a faint purple aura, as if rays of light were shining on her body, faintly revealing a transcendent aura. At that moment, the woman suddenly felt a throbbing pain in her heart. She opened her eyes abruptly. "Xiao Chun, it's Xiao Chun." An elegant scholar with a beard walked over beside her. "Xiao Chun? We haven't seen him for more than a year. Are you hallucinating?" At this point, a hint of loneliness flashed in his eyes. It had been more than a year, so how could he not miss that child? "No." The middle-aged woman's body trembled violently. She stood up and looked out of the valley. "Old Yi, it's really Xiao Chun. I heard his voice. Believe me, he's here. Mother and son are connected. It's really Xiao Chun." The elegant scholar's body trembled, and a hint of disbelief and excitement flashed in his eyes. Could it be that he really came to find us? Chapter 1264. "Dad, Mom, Brother, where are you guys?" Yichen shouted again as he looked at the powerhouses of the academy who were surging over from all directions. His voice shook the sky, and it was moving. "How dare you use force in my academy? You've committed a heinous crime. Suppress. We must suppress it." In an instant, countless powerhouses of the academy surrounded him. Although they did not cultivate as martial artists, the three flowers above their heads shone with golden light. Tongue sword unleashing. The one palace in a powerhouse's body trembled as he chanted. With a boom, sword chi that filled the sky surged through the air along with the movement of his lips. The sword chi that filled the sky was like lightning. It was vast and mighty as it slashed at Yi Chun with terrifying might. "Get lost!" Yi Chun roared. His voice was like thunder. He shattered that person's Wen Dao sword chi with a single roar and turned him into a bloody mist. "Don't attack him alone. This brat is not an ordinary emperor's throne. He once killed 4 emperor's throne powerhouses." A powerhouse roared with a sinister gaze. "Let's work together to suppress him with Wen Qi and try our best to stall until the deans and family heads arrive." Using brush to suppress mountains and rivers. Poetry can suppress a nation. Rumble. Following an earth-shattering rumble, many Wen Dao powerhouses of the Academy unleashed their instincts. Their eyes were filled with crazy, killing intent. Someone picked up a brush and drew. The painting soared into the air and turned into bolts of lightning, attempting to kill Yi Chun on the spot. Someone spat out golden words one after another. Every word was enough to fill rivers and seas. Someone stood with a zither in his arms. His 10 fingers danced, and as intense music filled the air, waves of terrifying sound-killing technique charged at Yi Chun. Such an earth-shattering scene shocked countless disciples of the Academy. They stood in the distance and watched the scene in shock. There was a young girl in red in the crowd. However, she was biting her lips at that moment as she looked at Yi Chun in disbelief. The young girl was Emo Hongxiu. Junior sister Hongxiu, look, that's the master of the Art Academy. He's holding a Tao Wu painting, and he's actually summoning the projection of the ferocious beast Tao Wu. Emo Rong, who was beside her, was watching the battle in shock as he excitedly introduced it to Emo Hongxiu. "Senior brother Yi, why are you fighting with the elders?" Emo Hongxiu clasped her fingers tightly, unable to accept this scene. She had grown up in the Academy, and many of the powerhouses in the Academy were like amiable elders to her. Logically speaking, she should stand above the elders. However, she met Yi Chun when she went out earlier. Although they had not known each other for long, she had long regarded Yi Chun as a friend. On one side was her family, and on the other side were her friends. It was very difficult for her. Boom! Next, a massive, illusory figure that was over 300 meters tall joined the battlefield. The illusory figure seemed to be a giant. It wore black armor and held a long sword in its hand. Only a pair of hollow eyes could be seen from its body. Even Mountain Lord Emo of the criminal court is here. Emo Rong and the rest exclaimed again. Elder Emo even brought a 6-ding divine puppet. He is in trouble now. Slash! The giant swung the iron sword in his hand at Yi Chun's neck. Break! A terrifying pressure swept out from Yi Chun's body, sweeping through everything and shattering the giant directly. Blurk! Some powerhouses spat blood and retreated. You trapped my family and attacked me without distinguishing right from wrong. If you don't hand over my parents today, I swear I won't let this go. Yi Chun was furious. He charged into the crowd almost instantly, and the space was crushed directly. He waved the 6 paths of reincarnation fist and attacked everyone in the crowd indiscriminately. His killing intent was almost tangible. Die! His punch directly smashed the Academy's Mountain Lord Hua Daoyuan to death. Elder Emo of the criminal court wanted to sneak an attack on him from behind, but his body was pierced by Yi Chun's hair that seemed to have a life of its own. With every step he took, a powerhouse of the Academy would die. It was as if he had entered an unstoppable realm. He went on a killing spree, and no one could stop him. In the distance, the Academy disciples who were extremely excited earlier were instantly dumbfounded. They watched Yi Chun, who was slaughtering the Academy's powerhouses, in shock. This person is really too powerful. An Academy disciple's voice trembled. Could it be that there's no powerhouse in our Academy who can subdue him? Just as he finished speaking, a purple energy suddenly enveloped the air. Emperor Yi, you've gone too far. Boom! At that moment, a gigantic golden chessboard descended from the sky and trapped Yi Chun within it. The chessboard was as huge as a mountain. Subsequently, an azure-clothed scholar arrived on a cloud. That person looked at Yi Chun, who was suppressed in the chessboard, quietly and shook his head. Why bother? It's the dean of the chess academy. The academy disciples, who were already in despair, were instantly shocked. Their gazes at the azure-clothed scholar were filled with boundless respect. The dean of the chess academy, Chu He, was one of the only 13 deans of Jixia Academy. He had studied chess for thousands of years, and he could form a formation with a wave of his hand. He could turn the void into a chessboard with a single thought. His strength was among the top of the 13 deans. That's Dean Chu's Sunluo chessboard. Someone looked at the huge chessboard that stood before everyone like a mountain and was extremely envious. It said that Dean Chu's Sunluo chessboard can suppress an emperor's throne. It seems like it lives up to its reputation. At that moment, several figures arrived one after another. There were men and women, some holding flutes, some carrying zither, and some carrying abacuses. All of them looked extremely dignified. Dean of the Zither Academy, Dean of the Arts Academy, Dean of the Famous Scholars Academy, Dean of the Legalism Academy. At that moment, all the disciples present felt that it was difficult to breathe. It was as if there was a thunderclap in their minds. It was because 9 of the deans of Jixia Academy were present. The deans had always been elusive, but now that they had appeared together, it showed how big a commotion Yi Chun had caused in the academy. Boom! At the same time, the golden chessboard on the ground began to shake violently, as if Yi Chun was trying to break out of the game. The dean of the Zither Academy looked indifferent. Dean Chu, can your Sunluo chessboard really trap this brat? Hearing that, the dean of the chess academy, Chu He, smiled faintly. My Sunluo chessboard was refined from meteorites from outer space. There are more than 36,000 formations engraved on it, and it is also enhanced by the Chancellor's seal. Therefore, it's not difficult to trap an emperor's throne. At this point, he formed a seal with both hands. Under everyone's gaze, he directly shrunk the mountain-like golden chessboard into his palm. Yi Chun stood in the chessboard and sized up the former coldly. Are you guys really going to do this? Why do you say that, Emperor Yi? Chu He looked at him expressionlessly and said, if you behave yourself, the academy won't kill you. When the storm blows over, we'll naturally deal with you. Everyone who likes Genius Nanny in the city. Genius Nanny in the city updates the fastest. Chapter 1265. At this point, he narrowed his eyes and said in a dignified manner, if you still want to struggle, I don't mind refining you with the true Samadhi fire. Many people were shocked by his words. True Samadhi fire. The Samadhi of the true Samadhi fire was superior fire, middle fire, and lower fire. Fire was divided into sovereign fire, official fire, and civil fire. Even in the academy, only the various deans could cultivate such a technique. Its power was extremely terrifying. Dean Chu, please show mercy. At this moment, a figure flew over from afar. It was Grand Tutor Ning. Ning Howren, what are you doing here? The dean of the art academy's gaze darkened as he berated. Didn't I ask you to repent at the cliff of reflection? Grand Tutor Ning did not say a word. He knelt heavily in front of Chu He and said bitterly, Dean Chu, fellow Yi, is only here to see his parents. The reason why this happened today is all because of a misunderstanding between the two parties. Please, misunderstanding? Chu He pursed his lips slightly, seemingly displeased. This brat killed so many people from my academy. His actions can be called a devil. Yet you're telling me that this is a misunderstanding? Grand Tutor Ning's lips moved slightly, as if he wanted to continue pleading. I have my own plans. You may leave. Chu did not give him a chance to speak. With a wave of his sleeve, he sent the former flying 3,000 meters away. Grandpa Chu. At this moment, Mo Hongxiu walked out from afar and knelt down heavily. She gritted her teeth and said, let senior brother Yi go. Senior brother Yi. Hongxiu, if your grandfather heard what you said, he would definitely blame you. Chui's expression turned cold. He forcefully restrained Mo Hongxiu and got someone to take her away. He then looked at Yi Chun, who was on the chessboard. Emperor Yi, I heard that you have a golden divine brush. If you hand it over, I might let you go. So you've taken a fancy to my emperor brush. Yi Chun scoffed when he heard that. Your Jixia Academy trapped my family and coveted my treasure. How dare you call yourself a scholar? I think you're more like a hypocrite. Dean Chu, why are you wasting time with this brat? The Dean of the Sword Academy snorted expressionlessly. If we work together to refine this brat with the true samadhi fire, he'll still tell us everything obediently. That's good too. Chui stroked his beard and smiled. However, in the next moment, the smile on his face suddenly froze. He stared at his myriad chessboard, only to see a crack appear on the chessboard at a speed visible to the naked eye. The crack was getting bigger and bigger. In the end, the chessboard exploded and a figure shot out. Then a bone-chilling voice rang out. Today, I want Jixia Academy's mountains and rivers to collapse and turn into ruins forever. A mighty pressure exploded from Yi Chen's body. At that moment, crazy killing intent flickered in his eyes, as if an ancient demon lord had descended into the world. Not good, he's escaped. Everyone, don't hold back. Quickly suppress him. Almost at that instant, the few deans, including Chu He, reacted instantly, and their bodies moved like thunder. Surrender now. The dean of the Kendo Academy turned Wen Yun into a long river of sword chi that filled the sky. It surged toward Yi Chun and attacked him with unparalleled power. Yi Chun's long hair fluttered in the wind. There was no fear on his face. He covered the sky with his hand and pressed down. He directly resisted the attack with his body. The former screamed on the spot and spat a mouthful of blood. He was sent flying as if he had fallen, creating a bloody mist. He killed the dean of the Kendo Academy with a single palm strike. The pupils of the other powerhouses who witnessed this scene constricted. One had to know that the combat prowess of the various deans of the academy was not weaker than an emperor's throne. Don't panic. He's alone, and there are 7 or 8 of us. We can kill him here. Chu He roared. In the outside world, an ordinary emperor's throne stage cultivator could become a ruler like Di Xuanxiang. However, the 15 deans of Jixia Academy all had emperor's throne stage combat prowess. This was the absolute status of Jixia Academy in the ancient desolate realm. Kill. 5 of the 8 deans charged at Yi Chun immediately. The other 3 refined their treasures crazily in an attempt to suppress Yi Chun again. However, under Yi Chun's God transformation stage divine consciousness, not only could the one Tao divinity that the 5 of them performed not stop him, but Yi Chun got close to him instead. He charged at Chu He, the dean of the Chess Academy, and waved his fist. He pierced through the void and punched at his chest without giving him a chance to retreat. It was this person who had used the limitless chessboard to suppress Yi Chun earlier. He even wanted to use the true samadhi fire to refine him so that he would hand over his fortuitous encounter, such as the Emperor Brush. The moment Yi Chun got close to him, Chu He's hair stood on end. It was as if death had arrived. He immediately retreated frantically. Although he was not a martial artist, his speed was so fast that it was unfathomable. He had broken through the sound barrier. However, all of this was futile in Yi Chen's eyes. Almost at the moment he retreated, Yi Chen's fist broke through the void and landed on him. Chu He screamed as his body was torn into pieces on the spot. Another dean was dead. At this moment, the hearts of the Jixia Academy disciples who were watching from afar were already covered in fear. They no longer took pleasure in Yi Chen's misfortune. That was the dean of the academy. Even the other 7 deans were shocked. There was a hint of retreat in their eyes. However, when they thought of the strict rules of the academy, they forcefully extinguished the thought. I'll overturn your Jixia Academy today. Yi Chun roared again. His long hair danced wildly as his gaze charged at the 7 of them like 2 heavenly swords. He had a supreme demeanor. With every step he took, the 7 deans could not help but take a step back, as if they were afraid of battle. The academy disciples stared blankly at the figure, who seemed to be possessed by a demon. They were all stunned. Boom! Yi Chun attacked again. His eyes were sharp as he lifted his hand and threw the 5-element heavy peak. His every move contained great terror. Rumble! The great peak soared through the sky, emitting a terrifying suction force that suppressed the 7 deans. 6 of their expressions changed drastically as they retreated frantically. However, there was one person who could not dodge in time. That person screamed and was killed on the spot. The world fell into dead silence once again. What kind of devil was this reincarnation? The dean of the Zither Academy looked at Yi Chun in fear. He said sternly, "Emperor Yi, the sea of bitterness is boundless. Repent, and you'll be saved. If you continue to make mistakes, you'll be standing against our academy." That's right. The terror of our academy is beyond your imagination. The Legalism Academy's dean's eyes flickered. If I were you, I'd cripple my own cultivation right now and kneel down to admit my guilt. That way, I might be able to escape death. You shameless old fools. Monstrous, murderous aura swept through the sky in Yi Chen's blood-red eyes. Today, I'll destroy the gods and Buddha. I'll make Jixia Academy bleed for 3,000 miles. If you like Evil Nanny Dad in the City, please collect. Evil Nanny Dad in the City is updated the fastest. Chapter 1266. Die, all of you. At that moment, Yi Chen's body was surging with killing intent. He was like a peerless demon god that had awakened. He looked down at the world as his killing intent surged towards the remaining 6 people. The void was torn apart. He stretched out his hand, and the dean of the legalism school was grabbed by his hand, unable to resist at all. The dean of the legalism school struggled with all his might, trying to escape, but he realized that it was futile. Emperor Yi, please forgive me. At the moment of life and death, he finally panicked. He could no longer maintain his previous calmness and roared with all his might, as if he wanted to beg for mercy. Die. However, Yi Chen did not give him a chance to speak at all. He was as calm as an ancient well. With a swipe of his hand, thick blood mist erupted from the void. The dean of the legalism school was dead. Boom! At that moment, the entire world was in an uproar. Countless disciples who were watching from the sidelines watched Yi Chun go on a killing spree while trembling. The deans that they revered were killed by Yi Chun one after another. Was the academy that they had believed in all their lives going to be destroyed by Yi Chen today? Quick, get the other 6 deans. Finally, the dean of the Confucian school roared maniacally. This brat is too terrifying. We can't suppress him. Only the other 6 deans can suppress him. As soon as he said that, a person from the academy swayed, as if he wanted to follow the order to get reinforcements. However, at this moment, a miserable figure suddenly rushed over from afar. That person spat blood. Dean Zeng, bad news. Dean Nong and the rest are in danger. The dean of the Confucian school trembled. What did you say? The person fell heavily to the ground, his face extremely pale. 3 people charged into our academy from outside the mountain gate. The leader is called the Patriarch of Hell. He's extremely ferocious. Dean Nong and the other 5 can't stop him. The dean of the Yin Yang school is dead. The dean of the Dao school is dead. The dean of the Zong school is dead. The dean of the miscellaneous school is dead. Following that, the person quickly revealed the news. In an instant, the world was terrifyingly silent. Countless disciples of the academy were dumbstruck. Yi Chen's helpers had lost so many deans? What kind of existence did Jixia Academy provoke? Blurg. Dean Zeng of the Confucian school spat out a mouthful of blood, as if he had aged dozens of years in an instant. All of you go to hell. Yi Chen tossed out the 5 elemental heavy prison peak once more and killed another dean. His ferocious might overflowed, and no one could stop him. What now? The remaining 4 deans were horrified. Yi Chen held the 5-element heavy prison peak in his hand and approached the 4 of them step by step. The murderous intent in his eyes intensified. Finally, someone couldn't endure his killing intent and rushed into the distance in an attempt to escape. However, he was horrified to find that he had crashed into an incomparably hard spatial barrier. The next moment, his body bounced back heavily. No! Along with a furious roar of unwillingness, a bloody mist appeared in the air again. It's over. Jixia Academy is finished. A powerhouse thumped his chest and stamped his feet, his eyes bloodshot. Yi, you'll be punished by the heavens for killing our academy's powerhouses. You still don't know how to repent. Yichen scoffed coldly. Just when he was about to charge forward, a breeze suddenly blew in the air. A gentle voice gradually sounded. Sigh, this is the land of the saints' teachings. How can you kill like this? What a scandal. Hearing this sudden voice, the spirits of the four deans, who were already in despair, jolted. Then they revealed expressions of ecstasy. Lord Chancellor, it's Lord Chancellor. Lord Chancellor has appeared. That's great. Now that he's here, we're saved. Our academy is saved. In an instant, the remaining four deans knelt heavily on the ground in excitement. Their faces were filled with respect. The many disciples in the distance were stunned at first. Then they could not help but burst into a thunderous uproar. The dean of the academy was here. It could be said that in the entire Jixia Academy, the Lord Chancellor had always been a legend. No one had ever seen him before, not even the 15 deans. Under everyone's gazes, a young man slowly walked over from the void. The young man was dressed in green, and he was about 20 years old. He was very young. With this person's appearance, the pungent smell of blood in the air seemed to disappear at that moment. A sense of peace emerged from the depths of everyone's panicked hearts. Yichen narrowed his eyes and watched the person walk over coldly. The young man stopped and looked at Yichen quietly. He seemed to be emotionless. Why did you commit such a killing sin? Yichen looked at him and shouted like thunder. You trapped my family, stopped me from meeting my parents, and even set a trap to kill me. You deserve to die. What a powerful aura. The green-clothed man's expression was calm, and his voice was still gentle. Young man, let go of the hatred in your heart and subdue the demonic thoughts in your heart. Otherwise, you'll fall into the demonic path. Obsession is suffering. If I want to suffer to the end, I'm willing to become a demon with a single thought. Yichen carried his daughter as a cold gleam emerged in his eyes. You don't have to deceive me. If you stop me, I'll kill you too. Become a demon with a single thought. The green-clothed man sighed softly as if he thought of something. Back then, Yi Dongli was just like you. He did not hesitate to become enemies with everyone in the world, but in the end he died and implicated many innocent people. Who is Yi Dongli? Yichen frowned. He's your Yi family's ancestor. The green-clothed man's voice was magnetic. You don't have to doubt it. Your father has Yi Dongli's bloodline. It's enough to prove that you're Yi Dongli's descendants. That's also the reason why my academy took in your parents. Since when did my Yi family have Yi Dongli? Yichen's eyes narrowed slightly. He did not believe what he said. Subsequently, he said coldly, since you took in my parents, please hand them over now. Why do you insist on seeing your parents? The green-clothed man's voice was leisurely. What if the price for you to see your parents is the death of your 1-year-old brother? What happened to my brother? The red gleam in Yichen's eyes exploded. He glared at the former with murderous intent in his eyes. Explain yourself. Your brother is sick. The green-clothed man was still calm, as if he was narrating an extremely ordinary matter. When your mother was pregnant with him, she rode a ghost ship through the dark barrier and was cursed by the terrifying creatures in the dark quicksand. Boom! At that moment, Yichen's mind rumbled like a bolt out of the blue. What did you say? After your brother was born, I checked his body. The green-clothed man's expression was calm as he said unhurriedly, he doesn't have a heart. I think he was devoured by the terrifying creatures in the dark quicksand. The reason he's still alive is because I've traveled throughout the ancient desolate realm and found the wood spirit heart to extend his life. However, the wood spirit heart can only extend his life for 3 years. Stomp, stomp, stomp. Yichen's face turned pale. He could not help but take a few steps back. His eyes were filled with heartache. If you want to save your brother, you need someone to change his heart. The green-clothed man continued. Your mother's heart can be matched with him, but your brother is unwilling. Moreover, your mother will die without a heart. He could not help but look at Yichen as he said that. His voice was filled with magic. You're different. You're a great cultivator. You can still live without a heart. Chapter 1267. Are you willing to give your heart to your brother? The green-robed man's tone was extremely gentle, but it had a bewitching charm. It echoed in one's mind, making one subconsciously trust him. You want me to give my heart to my brother? Yi Chen's eyes focused when he heard that. He then looked at the former as if he was moved. Can my heart really save my brother? Of course. The green-robed man smiled lightly. His gaze at Yi Chen became gentler. Your brother is the closest to your bloodline. Moreover, you're a grand cultivator. Not only can your heart extend your brother's life, but it can also strengthen his aptitude. At this point, his voice was filled with magnetism. When the time comes, you and your brother will be able to sweep through the ancient desolate realm and suppress the ages. No one will be able to stop you. You're not lying to me, are you? Yi Chen's lips moved slightly. The desire in his eyes was getting more obvious. I'm not lying to you, because lying to you won't do me any good. Taking 10,000 steps back, that's your brother. Are you willing to see him die because of your coldness? Didn't you put in so much effort and caused such a commotion to see your parents and brother? If something happens to them, can you guarantee that you won't live in guilt for the rest of your life? The green-robed man shook his head and smiled. He looked at Yi Chen with a burning gaze. Tell me your choice now. If you're willing to save your brother, I'll naturally let you see your parents after this is done. As soon as he finished speaking, the atmosphere gradually quieted down. Only Yi Chen's struggling face and choosing gaze were left. All right. A few seconds later, a seemingly decisive voice came from Yi Chen's mouth. He looked at the former fixedly. How can I give my heart to you? As soon as he said that, many people from the academy, standing in the distance, could not hide the joy in their eyes. Child, come here. Kuyunzi's expression was still as gentle as before. He waved his sleeve at Yi Chen with a smile. His words and actions were filled with great charm. All right, I'm coming. Yi Chen's expression was wooden, as if his soul had been taken away. He walked towards the former step by step. Child, the process of extracting the heart is next. Kuyunzi's expression was extremely serious. You have to listen to me because this concerns your brothers and your own lives. Nothing must go wrong. All right, I'll listen to you. Yi Chen nodded blankly. Hearing this, Kuyunzi's eyes flashed. Good child. Now open your mind and let me leave a mark in the depths of your soul. Only then will you be able to keep your life. Yi Chen's mudball palace shook slightly as he completely relaxed. If other cultivators were to see this, they would definitely break out in cold sweat. Because the Naiwan Palace was the residence of a cultivator's soul core, and once it was easily invaded by an external force, the consequences would be unimaginable. Good boy. The space between Kiyunzi's brows twitched slightly. Subsequently, a wisp of his soul turned into a dark glow and was about to pierce into Yi Chen's mudball palace. Fellow Taoist Yi don't. At that moment, a thunderous roar came from afar. In an instant, a ghostly light turned into a bolt of lightning and flew over. As the ghostly light dissipated, a black-robed young man was revealed. It was none other than Patriarch Yellowspring. At that moment, the Patriarch of Hell's expression was extremely grim as he looked at Yi Chen, who seemed to be controlled. He could not help but shout, Fellow Yi, what are you waiting for? Wake up. Daddy, wake up. The little guy was anxious. However, Yi Chen did not move at all. You old dog, what method did you use to bewitch Fellow Yi to such a state? The Patriarch of Hell's expression changed abruptly. He stepped into the air toward Kuyunzi with killing intent. Today, I'll send you to hell. Stop him. Kuyunzi's voice was like thunder. Kill. Suddenly, countless powerful auras surged in the world. Countless powerhouses of the Math Palace charged at the Patriarch of Hell fearlessly, including the remaining 4 deans of the Math Palace. Those who stand in my way will die. The Patriarch of Hell was furious. Murderous intent surged in his eyes as he charged into the crowd without holding back. He tried to charge at Yi Chen. Kuyunzi did not hesitate anymore. He split a third of his soul and pierced it into Yi Chen's mudball palace in an extremely domineering manner. His originally gentle face was no longer there. Instead, it was replaced by ferocity and ecstasy. As long as he controlled Yi Chen's mind, All the fortuitous encounters in Yi Chen's mind would belong to him, including his memories, abilities, and cultivation methods. However, at the next moment, as soon as one-third of his soul entered Yi Chen's Mudball Palace, Yi Chen's Mudball Palace was immediately sealed. Oh no! Kuyunzi's soul was shocked. He immediately fled in all directions, trying to rush out. At that moment, a golden shadow that looked like an ancient god soared into the sky and directly suppressed him in the chaotic sea of consciousness. Bleck. Almost at that moment, Kuyunzi spat a mouthful of blood. He then looked at Yi-chan in pain. Is it painful? Yi-chan opened his eyes slowly. His originally numb expression was no longer there. Instead, it was replaced by a cold and sinister expression. It's no wonder. I destroyed one-third of your soul. If it were anyone else, they would have died long ago. Why you? Kuyunzi was still in shock. Yi-chan looked at him quietly. A mocking smirk appeared at the corner of his lips. Are you curious why I was able to control you at the critical moment, even though I wasn't bewitched by you? You tricked me. Kuyunzi's gaze was cold. So what if I tricked you? Yi-chan shook his head lightly as if he was mocking. You're too stupid. Do you really think I'll believe your one-sided words? Even if my brother really doesn't have a heart, I can still extend his life. Why would I need to use my own heart? At this point, he could not help but grin, revealing his white teeth. Old man, I'm afraid you still don't know that even in the medical technology of the mortal world, there's not only heart transplant surgery, but also head transplant surgery. Ha ha! At this moment, an earth-shattering laughter rang out. Fellow Yi, I knew you would be held hostage by this old dog. Then I'll have to cooperate with you, Yi-chan said while smiling. I'll kill all these hypocrites today. Netherworld, destruction, finger. The Patriarch of Hell's aura skyrocketed. As terrifying energy surged, a dark light transformed into a giant finger that could hold up the sky, forcefully killing Adine. Awesome again. The Patriarch was in high spirits, like an evil young man. At this moment, the 9 Eagle Phoenix and Xiao Hei joined forces and charged over. They seemed to want to join the battle and attack Kuyunzi. Yi-chan stopped the two of them and handed the little girl in his arms to the 9 Eagle Phoenix. He then looked at Kuyunzi with flickering eyes. They say that you're the law enforcer of heaven and earth. I'd like to experience it today.